of England too to start the weekend. Eventually, though, generally that cloud and rain that's generally across Scotland, Northern Ireland, it's slowly sinking its way towards the Scottish borders, northern parts of England. So quite a damp day on offer here. It is going to be clearing the north, still plenty of blustery showers here too. And across England and Wales, still can't rule out a chance of a shower, but across many parts of England and Wales, there'll still be plenty of bright weather. Still feeling cold, slight improvement in temperatures in the south, but feeling quite nippy in those blustery winds. For Sunday, it's going to be largely dry and bright across the country as we've got high pressure building. That's after quite a cold start, may even see quite a widespread frost in the north. But eventually we'll start to see some higher cloud building from the west as this frontal system tries to move its way in. So plenty of dry and bright weather over the weekend, although cold, and temperatures improving into next week.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. 100 days since the first Labour government for a generation took power.
And despite promising calm, it's been anything but, as the Prime Minister marks the anniversary while trying to salvage his much-touted investment summit.
But with a £1 billion port expansion on the line, is it game over before Labour's push for growth even gets going?
The case thickens against former Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed as 40 additional people make claims against the disgraced tycoon.
It's World Arthritis Day, and we're paying tribute to the 10 million Brits who live with the condition.
Over a century after Sir Ernest Shackleton lost ship Endurance sank, new images shed light on the vessel that's still making headlines 100 years on. This morning, Shackleton's granddaughter joins breakfast ahead of a brand new documentary detailing this incredible story.
And Portugal plans to slash taxes if you're under 35. So this morning we're asking whether it's time to tax the young less.
A growing number of women are admitting they'd rather a man paid on a date. We're debating who should foot the bill in relationships.
And if you want to go somewhere exotic on a date, it's 50 years since fast food chain McDonald's first arrived in the UK. Has it changed Britain for better or for worse?
Good morning. Manchester United are hit by a serious security breach as it emerges that their dressing room was bugged before their fixture at Aston Villa last week. Thomas Tuchel, meanwhile, throws his hat in the ring for the England job, and Novak Djokovic reacts to the retirement of his old rival Rafa Nadal.
It's a weekend of two halves as far as the weather's concerned. Showery rain around today, but most places fine tomorrow. Full details coming up in the forecast.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I'm really intrigued by this tax story.
Yes.
And apparently in Portugal, you know, if you're under 35, you will pay less, well, income tax, presumably.
Yeah. So does that mean if you're over 35, as some of us might be just slightly over 35 here, you pay more?
Well,
someone's got to make up for the shortfall.
Yeah, it's got to be a shortfall, hasn't it? Unless it's all about generating more people getting jobs and more people being employed, and therefore the coffers are built up anyway.
In theory, it's to stop the youngsters leaving Portugal.
Yeah, but that wouldn't apply over here, would it? I don't think there's that many young Brits escaping our shores.
No. Maybe it's
no. They might do if they go to Portugal and find there's no tax to pay, or there's less tax to pay.
Less tax. But that wouldn't apply, though, would it?
Well, I don't know.
Because they'll still be Brits.
Yes, but is it to locals only, or is it to internationals as well? Because it's a good way to stimulate growth, I would argue.
Well,
I just think it's discriminate the elderly.
Well, you do wonder. I mean, maybe tax the young people more.
Good idea. They're younger, they've got broad shoulders, they can take it.
Yeah, quite right.
I think certainly women over a certain age should pay less.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. Cracking.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, I'm not for that.
gbnews.com/your say, women. Please, just do support me, OK, on this one.
Well, who knows what might be unveiled in the next 100 days. By the government, you just never know, do you? Because today is 100 days since Labour's landslide win. It really was a landslide at the general election. But has there been all the change that the party promised?
The change, right, OK. That's despite the Prime Minister admitting his experience what he calls side wins. His promise not to be knocked off course.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, reflects on their time in office so far.
Now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal and a return of politics to public service.
That's what Sir Keir Starmer promised on the step of 10 Downing Street 100 days ago. It's been 14 years since the last Labour government. He promised an agenda full of ambition and plans to make a change. In recent weeks, his government has published its new employment rights bill, the introduction of GB Energy and lifting a ban on offshore wind.
GB Energy will be an owner and investor
It will work with the private sector to build the clean energy we need, create good jobs like those here at Hutchinson, and generate a return for the taxpayer.
But the first 100 days have not been the honeymoon for the Labour Party that many might have expected. First, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, reiterated the tough decisions she's having to take to fix a financial hole left by the last Tory government. Then, prisoners were released from jail early to ease overcrowding, and the government cut the winter fuel payment from millions of pensioners, sparking outrage across the country.
I think for most people we found it quite an unusual step to have made. I didn't think, no, that I'd be tabling a motion saying give back pensioners the £300 that you've taken off them. Look, the first decision made to pick the pocket of pensioners is a mistake, and they do need to reverse that decision.
Labour promised a new way of governing, but it looked like more of the same, as Sir Keir Starmer had to shake up his number 10 team, moving Stu Gray amid a turf war amongst top advisers. That came as the government seemed to be constantly fighting a slew of claims and allegations about freebies involving the Prime Minister and his other top team in the Cabinet.
Prime Minister, you are having to reset before you've even hit 100 days in government. Your envoy for the regions isn't even here at this first summit. Is this embarrassing for you, and do you have a grip on what's happening in government?
We've just had the first meeting of the Council of Nations and Regions. I've had every First Minister here, the Deputy First Minister in Northern Ireland, and all the mayors from across England. We've had a really constructive discussion.
But the Prime Minister wouldn't answer the question. The Labour Party has not hit the ground running. Perhaps he might be realising that running a country is much harder than running an opposition. Still, it's only 100 days since polling day. Sir Keir Starmer has got time to get it right. The question for him and his top team is whether the electorate will remember any of this by the time they vote in 4 or 5 years' time. Christopher Hope, GB News.
Well, let's talk to former Chief of Staff to Nadhim Zahawi, James Price. Good to see you this morning, James. Chris Hope makes a very good point there, doesn't he? You know, this is controversial now. It does seem to be a bit of a mess, frankly, now. But will we remember or even care when it comes to the next election?
Yeah, it's exactly the right question. It's a very long time into the future, as you say, but all we've got to go on is how it's been so far. And don't forget, after several years, you get more tired, you start running out of ideas. I dare say in maybe something like 18 months, the Labour Party will realise that all of the stuff that it's doing isn't working. It's getting more and more unpopular. It's not fixing any of the big underlying structural problems inside how Britain is governed. And it's going to get more unpopular. It's going to realise, we've got to change tack here. And then they've got two options. They can realise, they can admit to themselves and to the country that basically everything they believed that they were trying to do is wrong and is making things worse, and they could start to make things better. They could be more pro-business. They could stop scaring away investment. They could actually get tough on crime. Those things would be really popular, really good for the country. Or they'll listen to their backbenches, they'll listen to their grassroots, and they'll double down. And there'll be more tax rises, more hitting rich people, more scaring business away, more gumming up the system with even more powers for trade unions, and things will get worse and worse and worse. So that's going to be a really important moment in a few years, and I think we'll really determine whether Starmer gets a second term.
James, do you think they've had a long time, obviously, in opposition, they've had a long time to shadow the jobs they're currently doing? They don't appear to have been doing it that well. They appear to be, to a lot of people, still playing almost like student politics still.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's really worrying, isn't it? This idea they brought in this woman, Sue Gray, who did the investigation into Partygate that screwed over Boris Johnson and almost ended basically his premiership, as a person who understood what was going on inside government to get them ready. Where is the evidence of any of it? Something like the winter fuel payments that I know will be of concern to a lot of people watching and listening this morning. That's something that the Treasury civil service, the officials, the people who are always there, they've been pushing this on every chancellor whenever they've had a chance to do it. And every chancellor for a long time has realised that although there are some good economic arguments to that, the idea that you shouldn't be sending taxpayers' money to people who are already very wealthy, and that you should be able to means test it, so make sure it only goes to the people who really will struggle. Those are good arguments, but they require a lot of hard work inside government to get it ready. And of course, politically, it's very unpopular because it will mean that some people will perhaps even die of cold over winter, which is totally unacceptable because they haven't thought it all through properly. So the very fact that they're listening to what the civil service wants them to do this early on something that's this simple suggests to me they haven't got a clue what they're doing. There were some really radical things in that space they could have done. They could have means tested the entire state pension or ended the pensions triple lock. These things would have been incredibly unpopular, but it would have been perhaps worth it for the tens and tens and tens and tens of billions that it would raise for future spending or tax cuts in the future. But the fact that they've upset every pensioner, scared every pensioner for maybe £1 billion saving in a £1 trillion budget, there's absolutely no economic point to doing that, really. And if that's all you're going to do, suggests to me they haven't got any ideas of their own already, and it's only been 100 days.
We are meant to be growing the economy, though. I mean, that's a key element of all of this. And yet, we've got this news that that DP World Limited, which most of us haven't heard of, but they're one of the owners of P&O Ferries, they're putting a £1 billion investment in a container port under review because the Transport Secretary, Louise Haigh, and the Deputy PM, Angela Rayner, called P&O as a company unscrupulous and exploitative. Now, in a way, this seems, well, you're shaking your head. I wonder, though, if we should be that critical of this. It's only 2022 that P&O, to united condemnation from our members of Parliament, sacked 800 staff by text and then immediately hired a load of very, very cheap immigrant workers.
Well, I think the problem here is exactly as you just said before, that this is sort of student union politics, and that when you're in opposition, you've got to try and make some noise to get some attention, and that's fair enough. But when you're in government, words have consequences. You can move the market, you can cause investment to stop like this, you can be responsible for the loss of an awful lot of jobs, and jobs, of course, mean that people can put food on their table and that we can tax the profits of those companies to pay for public services like hospitals and schools and roads, and that these people would rather feel better about themselves and feel very self-righteous than actually do the kind of things that you need to do in order to attract that kind of investment. I think it goes to a wider problem that I think Rachel Reeves worked in a bank for a couple of years, but other than that, I'm not sure anybody in the entire cabinet has had any real experience of the private sector and thinks about it as this kind of evil, nasty, exploitative thing, rather than what everybody at home who's ever worked in a business, small or large, knows, that businesses are creative and moral and human, and that they provide things that people need. And that it's not the job of the government to grow the economy. That's what hardworking people at home will do. It's the job of the government to get out of the way and occasionally correct when there are market failures. So you could have corrected what was happening with P&O with slightly light touch regulation, rather than say, oh, these people are so terrible, we don't want your money, go off somewhere else. That leaves us poorer, and it will leave other countries, wherever they choose to invest, instead richer.
OK. James, we'll speak to you a little bit later on, but for now, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, they've blamed Louise Haigh for that, haven't they, the Transport Minister? They've said, it's not us, it's her doing that. It's not a government policy.
No, but that's interesting as well, isn't it? The minute you start distancing yourself from your own cabinet.
The infighting already. It's like, didn't they learn anything from the mess beforehand?
Well, it's all a bit worrying.
Compliments are flooding in already this morning.
Oh, are they?
Evidently, I look like the woman off of Terrorhawks. Which is
Zelda.
A fair point.
Zelda.
I think it's a fair point, actually. Thank you.
You do not.
Thank you.
Actually.
I'm taking it.
Honestly, some people are just rude. Still need to be rude.
I think being honest on a Saturday morning is fair enough. Thank you very much. Keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say.
Now, the Metropolitan Police is investigating 40 new allegations of rape and sexual assault against Mohammed Al Fayed between 1979 and 2013.
The force say they have received a flurry of responses following the investigation being made public last month.
But with former editor of the Sunday Mirror, Paul Connew, saying he tried to expose Fayed back in the 80s, why has it taken so long to get to this point?
Joining us now is former editor of the Sunday Mirror, Paul Connew.
Good morning.
Good morning. Paul, I mean, this story just gets worse and worse on a daily basis. You, like myself, were working on newspapers as this was happening. You spoke out at the time, and I also made an official complaint, and I was ignored, and it seems you were as well. What's your recollections of what happened back then?
Well, I was heavily involved in the BBC documentary. I mean, it wasn't the first documentary on Al Fayed on this subject, but it was certainly the biggest and the one that caused the biggest reaction. The answer to that question comes quite simply in Al Fayed's power, influence, his corruption, including of police officers. Don't forget that back in I tried to do it in first of all in the late 80s, and when I was deputy editor of the News of the World, and then again we looked at it in the 90s when I was editing the Sunday Mirror. But although we found victims of Al Fayed, they were so terrified, so intimidated, and so convinced of his power that no one was prepared to actually go public, which, given Britain's libel laws, that unless you could produce the victims in the witness box when Al Fayed inevitably sued you, then it was a lost cause.
So what? I mean, it's fascinating. I know you're not saying it's the victim's fault in there because they wouldn't come forward. I mean, obviously there is this huge amount of fear. It begs the question then: how do you stop this happening again if someone can have that much power that people just will not speak against them in their lifetime?
Well, the more, because I was the editor also, who was thwarted legally from exposing Jimmy Savile in '94. But look, an example of this was the nanny to Al Fayed's children, a Portuguese woman called Hermina da Silva, back in, I think, '97, who made a complaint about being sexually assaulted by Al Fayed at his home, not at Harrods. And she was promptly arrested by the Met. And John McNamara, now dead, unfortunately, a former very senior Scotland Yard officer who had become, the rather terrifying head of security for Al Fayed at Harrods, he told one of his colleagues, "We've done a Moody, we're going to have her arrested." Later on, of course, no charges were brought, and she was given £12,000 of payoff, and I think with a non-disclosure, in fact, although she's spoken out now, from Al Fayed. But this was a pattern. And Bob Loftus, a former army major who was a deputy head of security, he actually turned against McNamara and gave a 1997 52-page report to Vanity Fair, who was involved in a long-running libel action with Al Fayed, in which he talked about widespread bungs, cash bungs, hampers to senior and mobile phones to police officers, even up to commander level, who were essentially on Al Fayed's payroll. And McNamara told Loftus, according to the 52-page statement, which the BBC has seen, is in fact, this is McNamara talking to his deputy. It's amazing what they'll do, they being corrupt police officers, for a few Reddits. And I think that encapsulated what was going on.
Paul, what you said you were involved in the BBC documentary that has exposed this scandal, and more women are coming forward on a weekly basis. The big question here is, Al Fayed died last year, as we know. Why, if the point is to help women and to encourage women to talk out about this sort of thing, the BBC, and as you say, you worked on it, waited till Al Fayed was dead? Why not do it while he was alive and stop other women becoming victims?
Because people were far more willing to talk. A lot of the women who cooperated eventually with the BBC were still traumatized, still even fearful, if you like, of Al Fayed, even though he was dead. And the examples I've just cited, of corrupt police officers. I mean, there's also a big question for the CPS in this ongoing investigation, because the police are looking now at both corruption history, alleged, but pretty clear there was to a certain level that happened in their own force, but also why the CPS failed. I mean, the 21 separate women approached the CPS between 2005 and 2023, and 5 times the Met say they went to the CPS for advice about Al Fayed, and nothing happened. Now, you know, why nothing happened is one of the questions that I think in this ongoing investigation, and of course the legal cases being brought by, by a very high-powered legal team on behalf of the of Al Fayed's victims. We'll focus on the CPS as well as the police.
Well, and quite rightly so. It all needs to be looked at. Paul, good to see you this morning.
Paul.
Thank you.
OK, let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom.
Israel's been condemned by the UK government after 2 UN peacekeepers were attacked in southern Lebanon yesterday. Downing Street reiterated calls for an immediate ceasefire across the Middle East. That's as airstrikes on Beirut overnight killed more than 20 people, it's been reported. EU member states Italy, France and Spain have jointly criticised Israel's latest actions as a violation of international law.
And a woman has been jailed for life after murdering both her parents. Virginia McCullough, age 36, continued living with her mum and father's remains in the family home in Essex for 4 years. She was arrested in 2023 when the family's GP raised concerns.
Where will we find your mum? Where will we find your mum?
OK, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed, but back next to the sink. Cheer her up, at least you caught the bad guy.
British Airways is cancelling hundreds of flights this winter, blaming aircraft shortages. The airlines announced cutbacks on long-haul flights thanks to delays in engine deliveries from Rolls-Royce. The FT this morning reporting the disruptions will affect thousands of people.
And the aftermath of Hurricane Milton has left not just a trail of destruction, but of misinformation across social media, with AI-generated content fueling theories about so-called weather control. Images showing a flooded Disney World, you can see on your screen there, and manipulated videos of so-called frequency waves have debunked by experts, but not before gaining millions of views. Lawmakers in the US have condemned the narratives, which they say are undermining real efforts in Florida.
I'm slightly worried about this AI business.
And you're a geek. I mean, you like your things.
I like it all, but it's when you see, it's advertised as AI, but, you see these pictures generated of, I saw one the other day of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris together having a drink and all this sort of thing. You would not know it's
realistic.
Not real.
I know, and they can take your voice now and make you say anything. That is really frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just... why would you do that? I mean, people lost their lives during the hurricane.
I don't know.
What is the thought process that makes you think, right, I'm going to get up to date and I'm going to put some fake information out there about something that's just killed people?
I think people just want to see how much traction they'll get with it all. But it's reaching a point really rapidly now where you just cannot actually believe anything you see online.
No.
Because it could be just totally fake.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And it's really hard to check as well.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm check.
But we're real.
Well, most of the time.
AI generated.
Wouldn't surprise me. Right, let's see what the weather's going to do over here for you with Aidan McGivern.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into Northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise, showers do tend to become fewer and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down into the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon. Brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, still to come, we're going to be talking about arthritis, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, 10 million sufferers in the UK. We're going to be looking at that in just a moment.
Conservative MPs have finally chosen their top 2 for the leadership. And now, it's over to the members. Join me, Christopher Hope, on Thursday as Kevin Badenoch and Robert Jenrick are quizzed by Conservative Party members and myself at our GB News leadership event.
And afterwards, join me, Patrick Christys, with a live studio audience and a star panel as we discuss what it means for the Conservative Party and what it means for you. Decision Time, the race to lead, from 7 p.m. this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Online dating apps are still the go-to for millions of British adults, with 1 in 10 using them to look for a romantic connection.
Yes, are you one of them? Let us know. But with many apps introducing subscription fees and complex algorithms, the world of online dating has never been harder to navigate. So who better to join us to discuss this than Mr. Tinder himself, Stéphane Pierre Tomlin. You have been dubbed Britain's best-looking eligible bachelor.
Yeah, so this happened back in 2016. Got an email from Tinder, and it was like, "You're the most swiped man on Tinder."
So just explain to us, for viewers who don't know, what is swiping? What does that mean on Tinder?
Yeah, so on Tinder, the app, if you swipe left, that means you don't like the person in front of you, and if you swipe to the right, that means you like that person.
So do you mind still being associated with that? It's a good thing.
Well, it it made me who I am now, and I love sharing how I was successful, and now I'm like a dating expert.
What's your situation now? Are you with anyone? Are you still single? Paying the bill?
So I'm seeing someone at the minute. Things are going well, and I'm a dating expert, so I'm always giving advice to people.
Does she know your title of most swiped?
Of course, who doesn't? It's quite hard. It's quite hard being the most swiped man on Tinder because you get a label on you. So I find it harder than anyone else, to be honest.
And where did you meet her? That's the big question.
At an event.
So not on Tinder?
Not on Tinder, ironically.
So for all that trouble online, it's actually a real life rendezvous. Which,
I mean, I have met people on Tinder in the past, and it has worked. Well, it didn't work, but yeah.
I need to know how to do the famous Stefan Smolder.
That camera is not a camera. That is your best friend, that's your lover. So you really smiles from the camera, so it goes like this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Yeah, no, I've done that.
Have you? Oh, we're just talking clothes.
Yeah, we're just talking fashion, obviously. One of us knows more about it than the other, and it's that one, to be honest with
Is
you.
it?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah, seriously.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, people think we're coordinated today, like you normally do with the lovely Ellie. And this was just sheer coincidence.
Yeah, and to be fair with Ellie, I just do as I'm told.
Yeah, I mean...
I got a message saying, tomorrow you are wearing this colour, so that's what I wear.
Isn't that brilliant? I mean, how brilliant is that? She actually messages you to say, I'm wearing a colour.
Yeah.
I want to... Ellie, don't listen. I want you to say you're wearing a colour and then turn up in something different.
Oh, I'm in so much trouble. Can you imagine?
Would that be divorce?
It could be television divorce.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not happening. Not happening. Right, it is 6:29. Good morning. Today, actually, is World Arthritis Day, and despite what many believe, it doesn't just affect the elderly. There are 10 million Brits with the condition, which comes in many forms and has varying degrees.
But these kids are made of tough stuff, as our Scotland reporter Tony Maguire now reports.
Arthritis affects around 10 million people living in Britain today. That's 1 in 6, managing pain, immobility and fatigue, impacting work, family and social lives. Contrary to what most people believe, arthritis is not just a product of old age. More than 10,000 young people across Britain have to manage these same symptoms every day. Britain's biggest dedicated charity, Versus Arthritis, supports young people like Martha and Sarah, making sure life doesn't pass them by.
When I got diagnosed, I kind of thought that was my life over, you know. I just was never going to get better, I was never going to get under control, but they have got it under control, and now I've got into medical school and I'm going to get to be a doctor like I always wanted to, and having my arthritis has actually driven me to want to do that even more.
I'd got quite a flare last year and I didn't think I was going to be able to get my hires, but I'd managed. A lot of it was through support from people at Versus Arthritis and people through the hospital.
Juvenile idiopathic arthritis, or JIA, is the diagnosis given to young people under the age of 16 living with rheumatoid arthritis, characterised by the immune system attacking the joints. Scottish Young People and Families manager Claire Connor says arthritis isn't the barrier to young people it once was.
So 20 years ago when you're saying, oh, I want to do teaching or I want to do that, and they go, but if you've got arthritis, how are you going to stand on your feet all day and how are you going to take care of a classroom of 25 people? And you go, oh, right, okay. Whereas now it's like, on you go, but let us support you and let us get you the right support you need to make that happen. And it might not, but actually, why wouldn't it?
Living with a hidden condition has its own challenges, but the stigma of early life arthritis is gradually fading away, with the dedicated work of Versus Arthritis helping young people defy all expectations. Tony Maguire, GB News, Glasgow.
Can be a very, very painful condition.
God, it's
Good to see that those young people aren't letting it get in their way, though.
Yeah,
and
no,
that somebody's
absolutely.
working on treatments.
And
things all
lots
the
of
time.
lots of you getting in touch as well with your own stories. So remember, it's easy to join in the conversation, whatever you want, but gbnews.com/your say. And especially if you want to talk about arthritis and share your experiences, because we don't talk about it enough. It's one of those things, oh, it's arthritis, and it's like,
well,
we should do.
It's because it's often in older people, and osteo is you know it's a bit wear and tear, isn't it?
Yeah. How are your
Whereas-
knees, love? You're a martyr. It's a martyr.
I'm a martyr to my knees. Actually, no, my knees are fine. It's my finger that's an issue.
Yeah, no, you've done something too, haven't you?
I've got a bit. Yeah, anyway, that's another story. Right, time is ticking on your chance to win 36 grand in cash in the Great British Giveaway. Just 2 weeks to get your entry in.
And make sure you don't miss out. And here's all the details you need to do it.
There's only on demand. Good luck.
Probably.
You've got to stop having conversations.
Sorry, we were
that
talking-
clashing. We're talking about my finger. So I've got
Yeah, it's chip a bone evidently.
chip a bone. I need to have it removed.
It's a traumatic event.
Traumatic. Instead, if you had a traumatic event, as well, only working with Dawn. I don't think that's done it.
Thank you very much.
Right, we've got the sport with Aidan in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Catherine Richards and Jake Singleton-Hill featured on the reality show Love is Blind.
Well, Catherine and Jake are joining us now in the studio for Saturday Morning Live. Thank you very much for joining us. And this is perhaps not the end result that people might have thought that they'd be seeing at this point, because you were both on the show, but you didn't fall in love in the pods, did you?
No, we didn't. I rejected him.
You guys look great together.
Yeah.
Very happy as well. It seemed like you guys were really strong, and it almost seemed like Freddie, after he admitted to you that he'd cheated in the past.
I actually respected the fact that he told me up front. I didn't even want to have that conversation, obviously. That was a conversation that we got told to talk about. And I respected his decision, but I think he felt that I was holding this grudge towards him that she really doesn't like, and which was not, and he knew this, because off camera we had many conversations where I was like, thank you for owning up, like, we can just move on from this. But if anything, I think he just felt guilty the whole entire time, and he put that on me, which is fine, but yeah, there's obviously a lot that people don't see.
So for viewers who don't know, Love is Blind is where you go and seek love and romance, but you don't see who you're speaking to, right?
No.
So, Jake, why did you go on the show?
My parents actually met in a very similar way. So my stepdad was texting my mum that he'd basically stolen the number off of a friend, because the friend had met my mum in Blackpool, and they were texting for like 6 months. They'd never met. So that premise of how they got together and the marriage that they had was stunning. And to build a relationship not based on looks before you met, I just found that just incredible.
So do you believe in that concept? Is it lust or love at first sight?
It's weird.
It's a bit of both.
I think, it's definitely a bit of both. And I always say, as you get older, your looks will change, but your personality will stay the same.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Conservative MPs have finally chosen their top 2 for the leadership. And now, it's over to the members. Join me, Christopher Hope, on Thursday as Kevin Badenoch and Robert Jenrick are quizzed by Conservative Party members and myself at our GB News leadership event.
And afterwards, join me, Patrick Christie's, with a live studio audience and a star panel as we discuss what it means for the Conservative Party and what it means for you. Decision Time, the race to lead, from 7 p.m. this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Time for the sport at 6:38. Aidan McGee's here. Good morning.
Good morning to you both.
What's this about a security breach in Man United's dressing room?
Yeah, well, it's actually at Villa Park, but it's United's dressing. No, it's still United's dressing room at Villa Park. So if there is found to be some culpability here, which I think there will be eventually, then it lands at the door of Aston Villa, because they're of course the hosting club. But yeah, the match was last week. It finished 0-0. It appears that they're playing it down. We don't know who it is, but Villa are privately apparently saying it's a prankster, a United fan, who gained access to the United dressing room and placed a phone in there 2 days before the game. This was. And so, yeah, it's not the same going into a dressing room on a Thursday or Friday as opposed when the game's on Sunday. There are fewer security around. So someone's done their homework. But it was a phone which has been stuck underneath a bench, I believe, and it's a Chinese-style or Chinese-issue phone where you can... It's a newfangled technology where you can ring it from another device, and as soon as it goes off, obviously it wouldn't sound because it's been put on silence, but it activates a microphone. Sorry, a microphone, a recording device. And the Sun have opted not to publish the contents of what was said by Erik ten Hag to the players. But bearing in mind that if they'd lost that game last week, I'm fairly sure he would have been sacked by now. So their stakes are pretty high. I've spent lots of times in dressing rooms and in tunnels all over the place around football clubs, and the security is pretty tight. So someone's got in there 48 hours before, and when presumably there's nobody around. I mean, the first team squad would be at the training ground down the road at Bodymore Heath. So someone's gone in there, put the device in there. They've opted not to publish the contents, as I say, but I can only assume they've done that because it's probably not very interesting.
Well, I wouldn't.
You know, if it's just tactics, I mean, you know, most football clubs would say, well, we've done the tactics, we know how we're going to play. It's all about getting their lads, give us.
Hold on, though. The Sun must know who's done it.
Not necessarily.
If they've got the audio,
they've got the audio.
Then someone's provided it to them.
They have, yeah, but it's not necessarily come first hand from the person who put it there. I mean, it could be a club employee.
Yeah.
For all we know. And I'm not sure what they... I mean, what were they trying to achieve? I mean, were they trying to achieve hits on social media? Well, that's difficult because they've not actually published it anywhere. And I just think... I can only assume they've listened to it and they thought, wow, this is really not interesting at all. Let's just try and... And the Sun have maybe taken a moral high ground and saying, look, we've opted not to punish it. In my time working on the tabloids, it wouldn't have worked like that. They would have punished it to be down.
Well, I'm not sure these days. I think the reason they haven't done it is because there is an issue with copyright and privacy, etc.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, these days it's different, Aidan.
Nonetheless, I mean, it would have been a more interesting story had the game not ended 0-0. But it's made it to the front page of the Sun anyway. Squeaky bug time, they've called it.
It's an interesting story, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
What's next? Oh, England. Oh, God.
I know.
Do we have to talk about England?
Well, look, Lee Carsley's, you know,
he's ruled himself out now, pretty much.
It would appear so. I mean, he's just not comfortable in that environment, is he? I mean, who on earth, in their right mind, says... They throw this new formation on us, which doesn't feature a striker. They lose to Greece, and afterwards he says, we practiced it for 20 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness me. I mean, you know, you have to play. The reason you have the players for a few days is that you work on it day in, day out. And he was trying, I think, and this fate has befallen so many managers in previous times. You've tried to get all these best players in the team, even if that means shoehorning them into unnatural positions. Now, the issue here is that sometimes, Stephen, something has to give. Sometimes you have to make a decision and say, look, OK, we've got 5 world-class players in the upper areas of the pitch, but maybe only 4 fit, maybe only 3 fit. France back in the 90s, they had a choice out of David Ginola, Eric Cantona, Zinedine Zidane. The manager, Amy Jacquet, knew that all 3 couldn't fit into the side. He put everything on Zinedine Zidane. It proved to be the right decision. They won the World Cup and backed it up with the Euros, but it involved 2 players there not being part of that side. And I think we've reached that point with England as well. And now Thomas Tuchel apparently has thrown his hat in the ring. He comes with considerable baggage. I mean, he's a bit like a Jose Mourinho. He never stays anywhere too long. But I mean, look, you two, like to see England do well as we all do.
You know what? I don't actually care anymore. A part of me actually wanted Greece to win that. We were so dreadful.
We were.
And international breaks just drive me nuts. In any case, I'd rather just watch my team.
I know what you mean by that. But as 2 people who want England to do well, if Thomas Tuchel comes in, delivers the World Cup for England, but upsets the FA, do we really care?
Well,
not really, do we?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. And so anyway, the Build in Germany tabloid over there reckons that he's in talks, so we'll see what develops on that.
We shall. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. See you a little bit later on.
Absolutely.
We've got the papers heading your way in just a moment, so don't go anywhere.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week, Free Speech Brighton, a sister group of the Free Speech Union, claimed that they were kicked out of a pub in the city for discussing trans issues in schools. The group booked a room in a pub for an evening of speeches and discussion when they claimed security guards came and asked them to leave after one speaker began to talk about this topic. Now, a clip of the evening was, in fact, posted to social media. Can you give us some background to what happened, what the event was for, and why you booked it?
Our normal pub was being refurbished, so about 3 weeks ago I went in and booked a local pub for a meeting, and they didn't ask any questions about what sort of meeting. It was in a back room. It was mainly secluded from the rest of the pub, so I thought it would be fine. But anyway, they didn't ask any questions. They took my booking. We arrived, I set up. The first speaker started speaking, who's a retired teacher who was concerned about trans in schools and how that affects children. But she was talking purely about children. She was not talking about adults who have protected characteristics, obviously. And then towards the end of her speech, I became aware of security guards standing behind me in the middle room. So I went to have a quick word with them and see what they wanted. And they said, we've had a complaint. And I said, what's the complaint? And they wouldn't say. Then they said, will you come and talk to the landlord? So I went to the front of the bar and they indicated this chap was the landlord, but he looked about 20, so I don't think he was the landlord. So I said, I hear you have a complaint about us. Can you tell me what it is? And he couldn't.
That sounds very Kafkaesque, as though you've committed a crime, but they can't tell you what the crime
Well,
is.
that's what I couldn't understand, because, you know, you might... Obviously, they can't tell you who the complainant is, but they should be able to tell you what the complaint is.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 6:46. Let's have a look at some of the front pages for you this morning.
The Times looks ahead to Sir Keir Starmer's investment summit on Monday as it's thrown into chaos thanks to a £1 billion of funding put on hold.
The Telegraph also reports on the blow to Labour's plans for economic growth.
Meanwhile, the Eye leads with ambulance services apparently being hacked by Kremlin-linked gangs.
King Charles on the front of the Mail telling activists he won't stand in the way if Australia wants to ditch the monarchy.
And the Daily Mirror has Elton John admitting he's not sure how much time he has left as the star opens about his health battles.
All right,
Wow,
let's
they're not very cheerful, are they?
Not very cheerful this morning, but we will cheer them up with showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci and editor of Spike, Tom Slater. Good morning,
Good
you
morning.
two. Tom, let's start with the Daily Mail's 100 days of disaster. Which
They're not sugar in the pill here.
No, they're not, no.
Nor are they with the poll that they've published from YouGov, which has suggested that at this milestone, at this 100 days, 47% of the people who voted for the Labour Party at the last election feel that they've been let down, that they've got buyer's remorse. And when you remember that they were elected on quite a thin mandate, you know, roughly 33% of the population, or the voting population, I should say, it was about 20% of people who were eligible to vote if you factored in the low turnout. It just shows what a disaster it's been. And one of the things that's so striking about it is that the whole sell of Keir Starmer was that he was competent, steady as she goes, not an ideological person, not somebody who's going to frighten the horses. And yet they're just so bad at the basics of politics. They've ended up becoming a sort of running joke, even this early on in their own tenure.
Just too long in opposition?
I think that's probably part of it. I mean, some of the sort of muscle memory of how to do government day-to-day is obviously withered away. But I think it's also a reminder that you do need a kind of project. You do need a kind of clear sense of what it is you want to do with the country. And I think Keir Starmer resembles like the dog that caught the car. He's wanted to be Prime Minister, but he doesn't really know what he wants to do when he gets there. So when you're in that position, it's very easy to get sort of blown off course and distracted by scandals, which is exactly what has happened.
Don't you think, though, Steph? I mean, you know, there were shadow ministers, shadowing jobs, learning, well, not a great example, to be fair, but you had a bit of time to practice what you were going to do when you got there?
Definitely, and sometimes I do feel like, you know, voters have made their beds, so now we just have to lie with the decision in the sense that we elected Keir Starmer to be Prime Minister. They were in opposition for almost 13 years, so we could see all the cracks with the Labour government, but we were just so fed up with the Conservatives. We thought that Labour would be the best party to take the country forward, but in my whole 38 years of living, I don't remember seeing a government unfolding so quickly the way Labour has. And I think, you know, a lot of Labour voters were hoping for the optimism of, say, like a Tony Blair government. But unfortunately, Keir Starmer's not the one to deliver it. And to think we've got another 5 years of this, but you have to think to yourself, the only way must be up. Because, the only way must be up. We have to have some optimism. Let them just get the scandals out the way, and hopefully this is a party that will get their act together. people were
had a budget
screwed.
yet. They haven't even had a budget yet, and already, you know, they've barely got a point on the Conservatives in the opinion polls. It's incredible.
Very, very odd. Talking of scandals, Steph, in the Express, I mean, Mohammed Al-Fayed, even more people coming forward.
Every week I sit in this chair and there's more to this scandal, and it's not going to bed because now we've had 40 new alleged victims who have said that they were either raped by him, sexually assaulted, and even we've had one case of potential sex trafficking to do with Mohammed Al-Fayed. And it's just horrendous to think that this man was, you know, he was kind of idolised in the public while he was alive, or kind of like a glamorous figure to celebrities, and, you know, he had the wealth, he had the power, but behind the scenes he was quite seedy. And the fact that these amount of women have come out now, it just thinks this man, if, you know, some of these allegations are true, he was a sexual predator, just walking the streets of the UK. And I'm just hoping, because, you know, behind the scenes in a lot of newspapers now, there's a lot of names people talk about. I don't think this is the first case we're going to see, because I think now we've kind of developed this environment now where people can come forward and talk about these attacks that they went through, which were historic. You know, before, people always ask, why are you talking about it now, and why not at the time? But we just didn't have that kind of environment, or, you know, those people's cases weren't being taken seriously.
It's horrible.
It's a scandal of it that people just weren't listening
This story intrigues me, Tom, the one you've picked out in the Eye. UK ambulance service is hacked by Russian gang linked to Kremlin. Sounds like a Bond movie.
It's incredible. So this story about what they're calling the kind of cyber Wagner, like the Wagner Group, that kind of paramilitary organisation, which is kind of employed by the Russian government to, you know, push its foreign policy in parts of Africa, was also fighting in Ukraine. A lot of these, there are also these kind of state-backed cyber hacking sort of networks who have been involved in hacking into all kinds of things in the UK. So the Eye newspaper have got their hands on a kind of trove of information that had been recovered from these hackers. And one of the targets was, as you say, Dawn, was the ambulance network. So they managed to get into the radio system that they used to coordinate and caused a sort of significant breach there. There's also talk about the fire service, all kinds of other public services. And a kind of reminder, as we've been told time and again in recent months, that because of a lot of our public services, to the extent that they have this technology, they have their own kind of cyber security, it's often full of holes. I mean, our NHS is so kind of backwards, its computer systems can quite easily be hacked, it seems like. And that this is going to be a big problem going forward, because it's not as if necessarily there has to be a clear-cut aim of we're going to down this system or do this or do that. It's about kind of sowing chaos is the way in which it's presented. And it seems like have been given more room to sow that chaos than we might have realised previously.
Yeah, it's just worrying. Can we just have a quick look? We've got a minute or so, Steph, to look at the Express. Is this an actual story? So Elton John has said, I don't know how much time I have left. Well, here's a shocker. Neither do I.
Look, he's still standing at the end. Push. But he's 77, and I'm sure for most people, when you get to that stage in life, you do think about mortality. And Elton John, he's had a new film released this week as a part of the London Film Festival. And, you know, in the documentary, he just says, I don't know how much longer I've got left. He's got two sons who are 14 and 17. So obviously with them as well, they're thinking about, you know, what will happen when our father's gone. And I think it's a natural thing. I think thinking about mortality is actually quite healthy.
Mind you, I tell you what isn't healthy.
What?
It's fact in all these pictures, it's got this big pendant on, which is made out of his kneecap.
Oh, did you see that?
No.
Oh. Yeah. It was. Oh my God! No,
Yeah, he had a new knee, so he kept the old one. They made it into a.
Maybe it's a badge of honour.
It's like a medallion.
Yeah. Why get rid of your old knee?
Oh, this is the way forward. Whatever bits you have lopped off your body, start wearing it as jewellery.
Oh, gosh. Well, when you're rich and famous, you can do stuff like that, silly stuff like that. But treasure it. He's gone through many moments with that knee.
He has. Dear me. Right, you two, thank you very much indeed. We shall see you a little bit later on. Look forward to working out what jewellery you'll be wearing in the next hour, depending on what bits fall off. Right, let's get a check on the weather for you with Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into Northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise, showers do tend to become fewer and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down to the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon. Brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's only
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. It's 100 days since the Labour government, first one for a generation, took power.
And despite promising calm, it's been anything but as the Prime Minister marks the anniversary while trying to salvage his much-touted investment summit.
Yes, but even that, with a £1 billion port expansion on the line now, is it game over before Labour's push for growth even gets going?
And the case thickens against former Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed as 40 additional people make claims against the disgraced tycoon.
Over a century after Sir Ernest Shackleton's lost ship, Endurance, sank, New images shed light on the vessel that's still making headlines. This morning, his granddaughter joins breakfast ahead of a brand new documentary detailing the incredible story.
And as Portugal plans to slash taxes for under 35s, this morning we're asking whether it's time to tax the young less.
Or more. A growing number of women are admitting they'd rather a man paid on a date. We'll debate who really should foot the bill in relationships.
And it's 50 years today since fast food chain McDonald's first arrived in the UK. Has it changed Britain for the better or the worse?
Good morning. Novak Djokovic feels a part of him has left following this week's announcement by rival Rafa Nadal that he's to retire from all forms of tennis. We look ahead to the Super League Grand Final in Rugby League. And can the FA really afford Thomas Tuchel? We'll find out later.
It's a weekend of two halves as far as the weather's concerned. Showery rain around today, but most places fine tomorrow. Full details coming up in the forecast.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I don't know what to make of Elon Musk.
Do you have to make anything of him?
I don't know. He says a lot of stuff which makes a lot of sense, but sometimes it's a little bit the other way.
He follows me on social media.
Does he?
No, of course he doesn't. I've about 5 Elon Musks following me.
Oh,
No,
I
he
see.
doesn't.
Oh, right. Anyway, he's unveiled a self-driving robo-taxi. That's the new thing. It's unlikely to be on the roads before 2027. That's not very far off.
Hold on, we're 2024 now, she says, yeah?
Yeah, but that would be... I mean, that would be quite cool. I mean, not good news if you're a taxi driver, actually.
No.
Is it? But the idea that this car just pulls in and you just get in and it just drives you somewhere.
Yeah, but who's going to chat about the weather with you and, that sort of thing? Come on,
you know
and
those
football.
times you get in a taxi and you just don't want to speak?
Yes.
And someone insists on chatting all the way to you.
I like having a chat with cab drivers.
I bet you do.
Yeah, good old natter in the back of it. Especially black cab drivers. Shout out to all the black cab drivers out there.
3 weeks ago, my mate arrived for his honeymoon in Florida, and he sent me a video. He couldn't believe it. He got into he was in a driverless cab.
I'm just not going to...
Yep. I've got a video of it if you want to see it later on.
How long was the journey?
Don't know, actually, but he videoed it in the car. It looked perfectly safe, and they wasn't the only one on the road. I could not believe it.
How can that be? Because it said that even with the cars that can drive themselves, which is allowed in some countries, they're not in the UK yet, you still got to have your hands on the steering wheel.
Didn't have his hands on the steering wheel at all. He's in the back of the car. The steering wheel was moving, but it's being controlled. It's being controlled elsewhere.
Can't be right.
No.
I'll send you the video. No
I would trust it for literally just going around the block.
Just
But
for an
any
airport.
proper
But
journey.
it is absolutely true. I can promise you. I could not believe it.
Oh, no, I'm not going there.
Well, I don't know how that's possible if Elon Musk saying he's launching one in 2027.
Can I just read one quick message out?
Yeah. Go on to this.
Yeah. There's a picture as well, must be real.
I'll show you
Can
the
I read one quick message out, please, Uncle Stephen? It's an important one. This is from Robin. Good morning, Robin. Robin, super duper happy to say that I'm not letting my blood cancer stop me having a life, so I've managed to secure a new role with a big AI. See, there's a link. Software company based in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
And I can work 100% remotely due to my health. Have a great day, everyone, from a super happy Somerset bunny. Good morning, Robin. I'm so glad you've got good, happy news, because we all need that, don't we? Yeah.
We do.
Yeah,
And you see,
lovely.
when these really big life challenges happen...
Positivity.
You've got to find a way to fight through. Don't you?
Love
So it's
that.
really good that you're doing that.
Yeah, so keep positive messages coming in. gbnews.com/your say.
We haven't got a lot of positive news for you this morning, sadly, because it's 100 days today since Labour's landslide win at the general election in July. But have we seen any of the change that was promised?
The grown-ups, remember? And this is despite the Prime Minister admitting he's had setbacks. He's promised not to be knocked off course.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, reflects on the party's time in office so far.
Now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal and a return of politics to public service.
That's what Sir Keir Starmer promised on the step of 10 Downing Street 100 days ago. It's been 14 years since the last Labour government. He promised an agenda full of ambition and plans to make a change. In recent weeks, his government has published its new employment rights bill, the introduction of GB Energy and lifting a ban on offshore wind.
GB Energy will be an owner and investor. It will work with the private sector to build the clean energy we need, create good jobs like those here at Hutchinson, and generate a return for the taxpayer.
But the first 100 days have not been the honeymoon for the Labour Party that many might have expected. First, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, reiterated the tough decisions she's having to take to fix a financial hole left by the last Tory government. Then, prisoners were released from jail early to ease overcrowding, and the government cut the winter fuel payment from millions of pensioners, sparking outrage across the country.
I think for most people, we found it quite an unusual step to have made. I didn't know that I'd be tabling a motion saying give back pensioners the £300 that you've taken off them. Look, the first decision made to pick the pocket of pensioners is a mistake, and they do need to reverse that decision.
Labour promised a new way of governing, but it looked like more of the same, as Sir Keir Starmer had to shake up his number 10 team, moving Stu Gray amid a turf war amongst top advisers. That came as the government seemed to be constantly fighting a slew of claims and allegations about freebies involving the Prime Minister and his other top team in the Cabinet.
Prime Minister, you are having to reset before you've even hit 100 days in government. Your envoy for the regions isn't even here at this first summit. Is this embarrassing for you, and do you have a grip on what's happening in government?
We've just had the first meeting of the Council of Nations and Regions. I've had every First Minister here, the Deputy First Minister in Northern Ireland, and all the mayors from across England. We've had a really constructive discussion.
But the Prime Minister wouldn't answer the question. The Labour Party has not hit the ground running. Perhaps he might be realising that running a country is much harder than running an opposition. Still, it's only 100 days since polling day. Sir Keir Starmer has got time to get it right. The question for him and his top team is whether the electorate will remember any of this by the time they vote in 4 or 5 years' time. Christopher Hope, GB News.
Let's talk to former Chief of Staff to Nadhim Zahawi. James Price, good morning to you. I mean, the Mail's saying Labour's 100 days of disaster. Well, I know the Mail's got an agenda. However, it's hardly been a glowing success, has it?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, if this is what the Labour Party deems as a success, I would be quite terrified to see what they think failure would be. And the worst thing is this stuff isn't happening in isolation, right? They made all this big song and dance, as you've said, that they're the grown-ups. The grown-ups are back in charge, right? These are people who have not run so much as a whelk stall before. And you see there's the other story you've talked about with Portugal, that they're realising that you've got to do things on the other side of the agenda. You've got to give tax cuts. You've got to give reasons for people to stay in the country. And the Adam Smith Institute, a think tank this week, put out a report that said that the UK will lose more millionaires, including people who are just millionaires in cash, liquid millionaires, than any other country on earth over the course of this next parliament. And that means they'll take away with them all the money they would be investing, all the sweat of their brow, all of their ingenuity, their families, their investment, all these kinds of things, because the Labour Party is seemingly so making such a horrible place for Britain to live and invest and work in. That's a terrible thing. And you look at Elon Musk. He wasn't invited to this investment summit that for some reason they're doing before the budget and before people know what the budget's going to say and do. Elon Musk is a man who is building the future. There's going to be robot butlers in every house because of this man, and that's not science fiction. And we're saying at the Labour Party, we don't want him, we don't want any of that investment, we're just going to stop anything nice happening here, and we'll keep giving money to our union paymasters. It's not a bright future for the country with Labour in charge, I'm afraid.
James, I mean, obviously the papers are the papers, the left-wing ones and right-wing ones, but both the Telegraph and the Times today, investment playing chaos as Minister insults firm, £1 billion blow to Starmer's push for growth. Now, Labour came in on growth. That was the message, and it's not going well, is it?
I think that's an understatement. No, you're absolutely right. And look, this wasn't just the kind of Labour backbencher. This wasn't some Labour lefty firebrand socialist type. This was the Transport Secretary who just decided to insult one of the biggest ferry companies in the world. And then Downing Street have had to row back. So one of the press officers in Downing Street has come out and said the Transport Secretary, someone who, sits around the cabinet table every week, runs the Department for Transport. The Transport Secretary's views, they don't reflect the government's views. Well, I'm sorry. How does that work? That's absolutely ludicrous. Are we now not to take anything that David Lammy says seriously? I mean, that would be good given that he decided to give away British sovereign territory. Are we not to listen to Angela Rayner? Are we not to listen to the Chancellor? You know, this is absolutely bonkers to have it being run like this by the people who are supposed to be the grown-ups. And as much as this might feel like a bit of fun, you know, James Price, the evil Tory, saying, ha, 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 it's not so easy, is it? How do you like it? The people who are really going to suffer this are all the people at home who just want their streets to be kept safe, their children to have a decent education, which, by the way, the Education Secretary seems hell-bent on damaging Britain's schools, which are better than they've ever been and some of the best in the world now. They just want to have a nice, normal life where the government does what Keir Starmer said on the steps of Downing Street as soon as he became Prime Minister, a government that just treads a little more lightly on your lives. And now it seems they're meddling in every aspect of the economy and in people's lives and driving investment away that's going to make us much poorer.
It's confusing. I mean, look, let's hope that in another 4 years things are looking a bit brighter than they are now when it comes to talking about an election again. But what seems slightly confusing is a lot of the changes that were going to happen were going to be funded by non-dom tax status changes. They were going to be funded by the VAT on private schools and all these sort of issues. We heard about that an awful lot. It was every interview. And yet both of those actually, I mean, even the time of implementation, if nothing else, seems to be in doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely frustrating. As someone, you know, I've got a vague, basic idea of economics. I've even read some of those books behind me. But the Labour Party have had all that time in opposition, Don, as you said earlier this morning, and they haven't got any of these things worked out. They seem to just sort of say, right, well, if we decree this, it will become reality. But that's not how things work. All right, on a technical level, if you change the tax rate of something, people are not necessarily just going to sit there and lump it, especially if they're a global company looking, well, do I invest in France? Do I invest in America? Do I invest here in the UK? They'll look at what corporation tax is. They'll look at what other kinds of taxes and codes and things like that are, and they'll make a decision based on that. They're not just going to sit there and lump it. When you look at the VAT on private schools, look, I didn't get to go to one of these fancy private schools, right? The kind of fancy Etons that people think about where their kids, I don't know, eat quails and wear top hats. But those private schools are very, very good at producing high quality people we need to work in the economy. But most of those private schools are much smaller provincial ones where people who do send their kids there probably work 2 jobs just to try and give their kids a better quality of life, which I think is the most noble thing, frankly, a person can do. Lots of them, of course, are for children with special educational needs and disabilities. They're all going to get absolutely clobbered by this. You've got parents of kids with disabilities who are terrified that their children aren't going to get the kind of education and support they need, because you've got a Labour Party who seem hell-bent on, frankly, class warfare rather than classrooms. And it's a crying shame, and nobody voted for this. Nobody voted for this.
Just one final quick question. You were a former Chief of Staff. I mean, obviously, another former Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, is also the elephant or middle-aged woman in the room at the moment. I mean, that's not been handled brilliantly, has it?
I don't really know what to think about the whole story. It's absolutely extraordinary. It took my party, the Conservatives, many, many years to be at each other's throats quite as nastily and vociferously as the Socialists, I mean, the Labour Party, have been in just, 100 days? The kind of briefings that, you know, your colleagues in GB News and others will have been getting from these guys, it's just awful. You know, I wonder if there's an element of sexism from some of it. You know, there's this phrase, people being called brocialists, these guys that pretend to care very much about kind of gender and sex equality and things like that, but then actually become massive misogynists themselves. But I think that the problem goes deeper, and I bang on about this every time I'm lucky enough to come on GB News, but you've got a whole system in the civil service. It just doesn't work. It's not geared to allowing elected politicians to actually get things done. And until we have politicians who realise this, I think Kemi Badenoch and Rob Jenrick, by the way, get it. I think Robert Jenrick in particular gets this, having been radicalised in the Home Office by his efforts to try and get violent criminals, violent foreign criminals deported, and failing to do it because the civil service won't do it. Until we get that kind of boring but really, really necessary structural reform, Britain's economy, Britain's safety, Britain's schools, Britain's hospitals are going to keep getting worse because the system is set up for them not to succeed.
Oh, interesting stuff.
Yeah, sorry for being so miserable on a weekend.
It is miserable. It is miserable. So,
happy Saturday, yes. James. Thank you.
I sort of hope you're wrong, James. I do. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, thank you.
Thanks so much. It's thoroughly depressing. What I can't understand, I'm trying really hard not to be party political here.
Well,
but But what I don't understand is when you've had such a long time in opposition, where they've been calling for a general election for a long, long, long time before it actually happened, why is there not a more cohesive plan in place so that they can, as I said, they're going to hit the ground running?
In opposite directions.
This
is the thing. This isn't even political, because a lot of people voted to get the Conservatives out because they were so bad, they were making such a mess of anything, hoping things would be changed. Things would be changed, remember? Things would be different. And it's like a lot of people who voted for Keir Starmer are going, hold on, what? Did I keep the receipt?
Yeah. Anyway, if you've got any thoughts on that, let us know. gbnews.com/yoursay. It's 16 minutes past 7. Let's have a look at some of the other stories heading into the newsroom this morning.
Yes, Israel has been condemned by the UK government after 2 UN peacekeepers were reportedly targeted in southern Lebanon yesterday. EU member states, Italy, France and Spain have jointly criticised the attack as a violation of international law.
36-year-old Virginia McCulloch has been jailed for life after murdering both her parents. She continued living with her mother and father's remains in the family home in Essex for 4 years. She was arrested last year after local authorities were tipped off. She's going to serve a minimum of 36 years in prison, but this was the moment she was arrested.
Where will we find your mum?
Well, possible.
Where will we find your mum?
Okay, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed, at the back, next to the sink. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
I've never seen anything like that. Now, meanwhile, British Airways is cancelling hundreds of flights this winter, blaming aircraft shortages. The airline has announced cutbacks on long-haul flights thanks to delays in engine deliveries from Rolls-Royce. The Financial Times is reporting that the disruptions will affect thousands of travellers.
The aftermath of Hurricane Milton has left not just a trail of destruction, but also misinformation across social media. There's AI-generated content fueling theories about weather control, images showing a flooded Disney World, and manipulated videos of what they're calling frequency waves have been debunked by experts, but not before getting millions of views. Lawmakers in the states condemning all of this. They say it's undermining relief efforts in Florida. Oh, frequency wave.
Well, the world's gone mad. I'm sorry. It really has gone bonkers.
It'll all be 5G causing COVID next.
The global elite, I think.
Oh, the global elite.
The global elite are controlling everything.
You hear about those in movies, don't you?
Yeah. They're the ones doing the cars that drive themselves and things. It's all,
it's all global elite.
Global elite conspiracy.
There you go. Who knew? Who cares? Right, let's have a look at the weather for you. Here's Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into Northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise, showers do tend to become fewer and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down into the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon, brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Conspiracy theories.
You've got to stop doing that. You've really got to stop doing that.
What we need
Listen
to do...
to the count. Listen to the count.
What count? This was people talking in my head. The global elite were talking in my head. And what we need to do is actually put the bits out in between, and then it's, and then just get rid of the rest of the show.
I think we'll probably get sued. By some people. Sure, I won't name them, but I hadn't named them. We'd end up in so much trouble. Right, time is ticking on your chance to win 36 grand in cash in the Great British Giveaway. Just 2 weeks left, darling.
I know. I can't enter, though, nor can you. But you can, and here's how you do it.
We love making luck.
Good luck indeed, yes.
Now, if we were going out on a date...
Yes.
Unlikely as that would seem...
Why?
Since we're both married.
Why?
We're both
married. But we can still... Yeah, but people... go out on dates still.
Well, no, thank you, no. But if we were, who should pay?
Where are we going?
Pizza Express.
I'll pay.
Oh, fine, good. Well, who do you think should pay on the date? Should it be the man? We'll debate that next.
Oh, you're a man. Oh, sorry, I didn't realise.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Founded in 1990 in Knightsbridge in London, the Beverly Hills Bakery offers some of the finest American baked goods in the United Kingdom. Beverly Hills Bakery has delivered gifts to all the UK Prime Ministers of the last 20 years, with I think the exception of Sir Keir Starmer so far, and provided gifts for the royal family and for royal births. As we near the 35th anniversary of the bakery, I'm joined by the owner and head pastry chef, Rosa D'Souza, and Manuel D'Souza, who is the director of the Beverly Hills Bakery. How marvellous to see you both. Welcome to GB News.
Thank you for inviting us.
So, why has this formula worked? Why did London need a Beverly Hills Bakery?
What we do is we're a bakery, but underlying it's actually a gifting experience.
Right.
So this is an alternative to flowers. So in terms of concept, that has maintained its originality despite going on for 35 years. And in fact, what I do is I often ask myself, why is it going strong? To remind myself to focus on those things that we need to focus on.
So instead of sending a bunch of flowers, you send a beautiful box of cakes like that, or confection like that, complete with bunnies and so on.
Exactly. So you have the concept on the one hand, but you also need the quality of product that goes inside. And I think that's where Beverly Hills Bakery has got a great product.
And it's where Rosa comes in, isn't it?
Yes.
So when did you start to bake? Did you start to bake domestically in your home, and did it spread from there?
We started from home. My mother's baking, where we didn't have all the stoves and things like that. We baked on the charcoal, like figurines.
Yes.
And we started baking. I learned from my mother the baking.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just noticed on the front of the mirror, just sort of coming.
And I was just ignoring people again.
Vanessa Feltz, that is. My love life is a complete car crash. Well, it is, Vanessa, but I mean, you know, she's admitting it now, and it's all gruesome. But I just think maybe she's gone about dating the wrong way.
That happens to a lot of women. Most of us date men. Any case, but Vanessa's story, didn't she try and throw herself out of a car when she found out her boyfriend was cheating on her?
Apparently.
Very dramatic.
Very dramatic.
I'd have pushed him out of the car. Sorry, B, just a
Anyway,
thought.
but maybe it would have all started off, Betty C, if they decided who was paying when they went out on the date.
Knowing V, she would have been paying for that one.
Probably.
Any case, there are growing reports that young women, are increasingly saying they are unashamedly want a man to look after them.
Oh, disgraceful. Reignited the age-old debate about who should pay on a first date. Men, women, or do you split the bill? And what about those couples who are of the same sex?
Joining us to debate this is political commentator Maxwell Harrison and former Apprentice star Amy Ansell. Thank you very much for joining both of us. OK, well, who should pay? Is it a boy thing? Is it a girl thing? Or do you just split the bill? Let's go to... Who should we go to? Let's go to the lady first.
I was about to say.
Love that. Well, Dawn, I heard you earlier. You would pay if you went on a date with Stephen to Pizza Express. So I'm with you on that. I think women should be able to pay on the first date, or any date for that matter. I think that long gone are the olden days of the 1950s when women just wanted to be looked after. They weren't really working. They didn't have jobs and careers. Well, now they do. 72% of the UK workforce are women. So women have jobs, women have careers, women can easily pay for a date. And I think that, you know, it's all about women's rights these days. And if they want to pay, they should be able to pay. Now, if a man pushes back and insists on paying, that's fine too. But I think in general, if a woman wants to pay on a first date or any date for that matter, she should be able to.
What do you reckon, Maxwell?
Well, no one's saying that women shouldn't pay. No one's saying women can't pay. No one's saying women can't get jobs, of course. This is all about this old idea called romance and chivalry. And lo and behold, can you imagine men trying to be romantic and looking after who is supposed to be the most important person in the universe in their eyes? So it's nothing about sexism. It's nothing about misogyny. It's about a man trying to do the right thing. It's called courtship. It's happened for hundreds of years and it has actually worked. I've always paid when I've gone on a date. I think it's the right thing to do. It's how I've been raised by my parents and it's expectations going forward. So no one's saying that women can't pay. That's a moot argument. It's about what is the done and right thing in a first date, and that should always be for the man to pay.
I hate to sound stupid, but shouldn't it, Amy, be whoever's done the asking should pay? If you're inviting someone on a date, you should pay for it, shouldn't you?
Well, yes, I could see that. But I just wanted to respond to Maxwell's comment, which is about chivalry. You can show yourself being chivalrous in other ways. You can stand up for a woman when she goes to the loo. You can open a door. There's lots of ways to show being chivalrous. You don't just have to pay when you go out on a date.
Why
exactly.
do you...
No.
I was going to say, so why do you think... Why do you think, Maxwell, it's younger women now, though, that are more likely to side with you, to think that I want a man to look after him? What's going on?
Well, you've got to remember the education system for a couple of years now, for maybe the last 2 decades, has said that pushes the idea of women being independent, and that's fabulous, and women getting jobs and, you know, the favourite position, CEO. All those things are fantastic. But actually, when you're talking about trying to be in a relationship, what is the duty of a man? It is to provide and to protect. And again, you know, things like opening the door when you go into the restaurant, going into, you know, when you go to a car, for example, opening that door. These are fantastic things which guys should be doing. But again, when you're going out, of course, the lady will be making a considerable more effort than the gentleman in getting ready. The least he can do is pay.
Oh, Maxwell, whilst I don't disagree entirely with you, you are sounding like you're from the 1850s, to be perfectly honest.
I was actually worried of sounding more like Andrew Tate, actually. That was my biggest concern.
But I mean, the idea that a man, it's all, as Maxwell says, you know, women, you know, hey, have equality. You can be a CEO, Amy, should you choose to be so. However, it is a man's duty to provide
and protect.
And protect, yeah.
I don't agree with that at all, to provide and protect. I think that a lot of responsibilities these days are shared in the home, you know, child care, cooking, cleaning, whatever these traditional female roles have been. I think nowadays are no more. So I think that those days are long gone, and it's all about equality and sharing. And, you know, if you want to go out on a date and share, that's great too. If you want to alternate who pays on what date, that's fine too. But I think long gone are the days of men having to pay on a date. I think it just sets the wrong tone.
So, Maxwell, would it actually put you off going on a date with a woman if she said, right, Maxwell, shut up, I'm paying, you know, I don't need you to protect and provide for me, I just want to go and have a nice time?
No, we would set those parameters beforehand. I mean, if someone asked me on a date, that'd be quite nice. Yeah, but of course, the vast majority of men ask women on dates, not the other way around. It's by that metric 5 to 10 times more. However, you know, this idea about provide and protect, it's not actually a bad construct. We've had it for a very long period of time. It's not outdated. It's not backwards. It's something which we should be frowning upon. Actually, it should be quite nice and quite actually liberating for women, for financial liberation, so that they can actually have that independence themselves and not have to worry about spending on a day or looking silly. So these aren't bad constructs. These are the ideals of being a gentleman and chivalry, and I know they're dying because of liberal and woke education, but actually at the end of the day, these are things which are very important, and why rising women are getting behind that viewpoint.
It does sound a bit patronising, Maxwell, I've got to be honest.
Well, no,
I agree.
It's not about it is a compliment. It is a compliment, actually, on the other way, vice way around. It's not sexist. It's not misogynist. It's actually trying to, because you are attracted to young ladies, because you actually want to do well for them and actually treat them. That's not patronising. That's actually quite a nice act of service.
Amy, are you feeling slightly patronised?
1,000,000% patronized. I think that, you know, a woman can pay for herself. She can lead her own life. We might even have a woman president in a few weeks in America. I mean, that's huge, right? So long gone are these days of what you're talking about, Maxwell. I think that a woman has her own money, her own career, her own everything. So she doesn't need to rely on a man for anything, let alone paying on a date.
OK, we've got to leave it there.
Brilliant.
Thank you both very much. Good to see you. I'm really surprised, because I went into this thinking, well, on most occasions men would pay, and thought it was...
You know,
but I'm afraid Maxwell made me feel a little bit uncomfortable there, I've got to be honest.
But you know, when you said if we were going out on a date, and I said I'd pay if we were going to, like, pizza, a cheap pizza restaurant, other pizza restaurants are available. Only because we were going there. If we're going to the Ritz or somewhere like that, you can pay.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. You can provide and protect all you like.
I mean, I just, to be perfectly honest, I just think whoever does the asking should pay. If you're inviting someone to something, you should pay for it.
But men, it's normally men that do the asking.
Not always,
Us women are busy getting ready.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Maxwell. That was brilliant. Thank you very much.
It takes a long time for a young lady to get dressed.
What would you know?
No idea. No idea.
Oh, dear.
I've never worked with a young lady.
Ooh, controversial.
So now you know people. Margaret will be on.
Margaret, where are you? Get in touch. I need your support this morning.
She'll be getting on this morning saying, you two don't get on. Yes, we do.
You throttled me last time.
Did you ask me to? It's for a picture. Anyway, it's all staged. It's all staged.
That's real.
I did quite enjoy it, though. Aidan's got your sport in just a moment.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
National Trust Director General has said something rather curious. She's admitted that 70% of the charity's staff are Union Jack-hating progressive activists. Yes, this was speaking at a Labour Party fringe event. The boss of the charity, Hilary McGrady, acknowledged that there was a gap between her staff's views and the views held by the wider public. So was she being honest? Joining me now to discuss this is historian and broadcaster Rafe Hadel-Mankoo, who I believe is with me. Rafe, thank you very much indeed. Can this be true?
The founders of the National Trust and later figures involved in it, like my hero James Lees-Milne, were really motivated by love of nation. But I think that love of nation in the trust has become actively, national self-loathing. And that's really the state of modern Britain. And with the trust, I mean, what we've done is we've actually entrusted our national heritage to those people who actually actively despise our national heritage, and it's it's utter madness.
Have these people wanted to take over charities like the National Trust for their political ends, or is it just something that happens? Is it just the type of people who work in charities?
This has been part of the long march through the institutions, that people need to understand that Britain is now a post-revolutionary society. So the buildings that house our institutions look the same, but the people who now run them bear no comparison to the generations who lovingly built and ran them. They are cuckoos in the nest, and we need to understand that. And of course, once you realize that, of course, that explains completely why, the National Trust and others have crudely tried to denigrate our national heroes and link them and their houses to colonialism and slavery, as they ludicrously tried to do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Conservative MPs have finally chosen their top 2 for the leadership. And now, it's over to the members. Join me, Christopher Hope, on Thursday as Kevin Badenoch and Robert Jenrick are quizzed by Conservative Party members and myself at our GB News leadership event.
And afterwards, join me, Patrick Christys, with a live studio audience and a star panel as we discuss what it means for the Conservative Party and what it means for you. Decision Time, the race to lead, from 7 p.m. this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, time for the sport. Aidan's here, good morning.
Good morning to you both.
No...
Hold on. Are you going to provide and protect, Aidan?
Oh, he's all of that world, aren't you?
Well,
here we go. Brace yourself.
Listen, I listened intently to what you were saying. Now, on dates, I do tend to pay for most stuff. I like to think I'm quite generous. But just now and again, even if it's totally from left field, she comes in and says, I'll pay for that, I've got this time. It just reminds you that you're not being taken for granted, and I love that.
We never take you for granted, Aidan.
No, you don't.
No, especially if you're in blue.
you like to provide and protect, though.
I do, yeah, exactly. Well, it's not just for anyone I date, but just people around me closely, and you two included in that.
I feel protected.
Well, I've no cash I could do with a tenner.
I'll sort you out later.
Oh, excellent.
Might be
right. Now let's talk about Djokovic, because he's very upset about Nadal's retirement.
These rivalries that develop over the years in sport, once the animosity dies down, you kind of realise that they're really good for each other. They make money off each other's success. You look at these big partnerships, Djokovic and Nadal, or Nadal and Federer down the years. I mean, even in golf, I remember when Tiger Woods was in his pomp 15-odd years ago, there was a quote from one of his rivals that basically said, "We got rich on the back of this guy beating us all the time." And it's absolutely true. And that's one of the reasons I would suggest why Novak Djokovic, who's achieved phenomenal success in tennis and is arguably the greatest ever, he said this week, or yesterday at the Shanghai Masters, he said, look, a part of me is going to leave with them when they go, because, of course, we've lost Andy Murray this year. We lost Roger Federer 18 months ago, or 2 years ago, whenever it was, when he decided to retire very emotionally. And Rafa Nadal is next on the conveyor belt. It's only a matter of time now before Djokovic goes, although he's still winning tournaments. And when you look back at it was the eminent rivalry as well, but from 2011 onwards, I would say. And 60 times they faced each other, Stephen. And the breakdown was 31 wins to Djokovic, 29 to Nadal. It was so keenly contested. They fought each other on all sorts of surfaces. And look, I just feel grateful that foursome in tennis lasted as long as it did, because a lot of people were predicting that with the injuries Nadal had particularly, and the injury problems faced by some of the others, including Andy Murray, meant that it probably should have finished sometime around about 7 or 8 years ago. We've had a real Indian summer of bliss, and all things great things come to an end. But yeah, Novak Djokovic yesterday just saying that that he's going to feel a little bit of something leaves him when Nadal goes, and it's not far off now. Yeah, sadly.
Super League.
Yeah, this is interesting because Wigan Warriors face off against Hull KR at Old Trafford, 6 o'clock today. Stephen and I covered the death of Rob Burrow quite extensively back in the summer. And there's going to be an award to the player of the match. It's newly named the Rob Burrow Award. Yeah. And it's going to be presented by his father, Jeff, on the pitch after the game. And I think that's really nice. I mean, you can just see how enduring his legacy is. It hit the sport. I mean, although we kind of knew it was going to happen, and yeah, you know, it was fairly obvious for quite some time now. But he's left an indelible mark on the sport. And I think it's a nice touch that afterwards, such a big event as well at Old Trafford. We're going to see a capacity crowd today with 76,000 people, and we're going to see the award handed out afterwards by his father. And I think that'll be wonderful. And we should have some pictures of that tomorrow, I would hope, so we can reflect on it then.
Yeah. Oh, be nice.
Good. Yeah. Right, we're almost out of time, Aidan. I just wanted to mention this because Ross has been in touch, and it reminds me of you.
Oh, no.
Because Ross says, I always pay for dates. I like to turn up a little late, make sure my date has her back to the door. I sneak up behind her, drape a chinchilla coat over her shoulders, and as she looks round, I say, all your wildest dreams are about to come true.
Yeah, I've tried that one a few times.
Yeah, I bet you have.
It didn't work, though.
No. And I don't believe Ross for a second. But there you go. Right, keep your thoughts coming through. gbnews.com/yoursay. A lot of you backing Maxwell on that debate, has to be said. Has to be said. So chivalry is not dead, and Aidan.
I'm still thinking of Aidan in a chinchilla coat against the door. I'm sorry, it's a really wrong image.
I can so imagine you do. Nah, no. Right, we've got the papers heading your way in just a moment.
Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
We shouldn't have to do this, Rebecca. These men should have been compensated long ago.
They shouldn't have to fight for recognition. And this is what's happened over the last 72 years. So all the way through from the test through to the present day, they've known that something happened to them. They've seen what they've been through, their medical conditions, the fact that many of these servicemen died well before their time. And they were ignored in a way that other countries didn't ignore their similar testing veterans. So other nuclear powers across the world, the US, for example, compensated and recognised their nuclear testing veterans many, many years ago. Yet, unfortunately, successive governments in the UK failed to do that. After the long campaign for medallic recognition, finally, these servicemen received medallic recognition, but it came in a jiffy bag in the post, which is not the way to honour the service that these men gave to our country. There needs to be an understanding and an uncovering of the truth of what they actually went through. They've been fighting for many years for access to their medical records, for example, urine and blood tests that they know were taken during their service. But when many of these families have tried to access their records, these test results seem to be missing, and there's no explanation as to why this has happened.
What basis does the Ministry of Defence say it's not our responsibility?
Well, we know from other studies across the world and subsequent studies, it showed, staggeringly that these men were exposed to the same amount of radiation as clean-up workers at Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Dinner.
So, you've done it again.
I'm just ignoring the global elite voices in my head.
Global elite.
Yeah,
It's
the
all
voices in my head.
It's conspiracy. Right, let's go through the papers with showbiz reporter Stephanie Tetchy and editor of Spiked, Tom Slater. Good morning.
Morning.
Tom, the Telegraph, this is what I'm struggling with this as a concept because I don't know where the Tories are going anymore.
Yeah.
And Tory moderates are being urged to back Badenoch.
Yes.
I thought she was the more right of the two.
Well, that's the argument, isn't it? Because of the sort of chicanery of Tory MPs, you've essentially ended up with two candidates in the final two who are, broadly speaking, appealing to the right of the party. You've got Kemi Badenoch, who is seen as being a more kind of consistent right-wing voice, shall we say, and you've got Robert Jenrick, who was generally seen as a kind of Cameroon, middle-of-the-road character until quite recently. But if you take him at his word, has undergone some kind of Damascene conversion. So there's this sort of argument as to which one is can really lay claim. So we've got Damien Green here, who's former Deputy Prime Minister, very much of the quote-unquote One Nation wing of the Tory party, who is saying that on balance he thinks that Tory moderates, so-called, should support Badenoch because she's got a coherent ideology. He also seems particularly concerned about Jenrick's pledge to kind of leave the European Court of Human Rights come what may. So it's shaping up to be a kind of interesting contest in the sense that I think it's really going to be a battle over who Tory members who tend to lean more to the right see as more sincere on these issues. And I think that's the mountain Jenrick has to climb, because up until about 5 minutes ago, he was pretty indistinguishable from a James Cleverly type figure.
Don't you think that's a problem, Steph? I mean, he does seem to have suddenly be saying what he thinks people want him to say.
Well, that's what I was saying to Tom earlier in the Green Room, that I think, he came out with this bizarre statement that he's going to get 1 million immigrants out. And I'm like, has he actually thought of the practicalities of that? How is it going to be possible for him to do that? And how much is it going to cost the country to do that? And I think, again, you're saying stuff to get people bolstered up, but I think people are now aware that politicians say things to get their vote, but then once they actually get in power, they just do a U-turn. So I think, for him, he needs to be a bit more frank, more than trying to appeal to voters' dreams, which may never come true.
Then Kemi Badenoch isn't saying a lot at all. Well, I know she did conference and all the rest of it, and they're going round and they're touring Tory organisations and things. But in terms of speaking to people, certainly on the media, we're not seeing it.
No.
I mean,
it's a bit odd.
It's been a bit more defined by gaffes, I think it's fair to say, in the course of the past couple of weeks, making the comments about maternity pay that then had to get walked back, various different things. But I think one thing that she's got on her side is a sense of consistency and record. So a lot of the things that get lumped together as kind of culture war issues, whether it's gender, racial identity politics, whatever. She's been a very consistent critic of those things. When she was in the Equalities Brief, she was very effective and forceful at pushing back, not just against what Labour were proposing or what the left of politics were proposing, but even previous Tory equalities ministers who had tended to kind of toe the line on these issues. So I think that she's got very much in her favour. And I think on the Jenrick side of things, it's a question of sincerity, but I think there's also a kind of question of, it's clear that whether you're talking about the Tory membership or the country at large, there are deep concerns about immigration, the asylum system as a joke. Why have we got a foreign court deciding our policy in this country and so on? But I think he almost kind of tries to lean into a bit of a caricature. Like he kind of engages in almost like the opposite of virtue signalling, like vice signalling. He goes that little bit further, and I think it's one of those things where that's not necessarily taking people's concerns seriously either. It's just trying to kind of play to a caricature rather than what the actual electorate is.
Shall we, let's weave a bit of showbiz into our politics, shall we, Steph? Yvette Cooper and Taylor Swift and the VVIP escort. What's this one? Well, we know what it's about.
Yeah, but I don't know really what all the fuss is about this one, because, now it seems like, there's a blame game now who wants to know why Taylor Swift received this blue light escort after a foiled failed terror attack in Vienna, where tens of thousands of her fans could have been killed, and she could have been killed herself while performing on stage. She brought lots of money to the economy during her era's tour. But now, you know, there's this in-party thing where, what did Yvette Cooper really say? Did she give her this treatment in exchange for a free ticket, which is not the case because Ed Balls received 4 free tickets from Taylor's record label. But I just think if we see what was happening at the time, there was the Southport stabbings, which was involved with a Taylor Swift-themed dance class. There was the foiled ploy. So what was we going to leave her to not have any security?
There was a big conversation about whether or not that Wembley show would even take place in the wake of the foiled Austria plot, which was pretty significant. It seemed to have backing of kind of various different ISIS offshoots. You know, it could have been like another Manchester Arena.
Easily.
So there was a lot of discussion about whether or not this would even take place. I don't think people are that concerned about, you know, whether or not she got this particular escort. I think the real scandal in this is why are there so many grown adult politicians who seem obsessed with Taylor Swift? I find this this is music for teenage girls primarily. Ed Balls is apparently all in there. So.
But yeah, it's well, I can see why they're joining the dots on this, but it doesn't actually make a lot of sense. It makes for a good headline.
You want to keep the story going, that's understandable.
Tom, let's have a look at the Sun, should we? Why is a Labour MP so determined to tackle the cost of living crisis by reducing the price of Freddo bars?
So this is new Labour MP Patrick Hurley, who has decided that he wants to get behind a campaign to cut the price of the Freddo bar. It used to very famously be about 5 pence. It's now, because of inflation and all sorts, it's up to 20 pence. And he very forcefully put himself behind this campaign. I think he's quite keen on using it as a way to get young people into politics. Of course, if you're that young, you're not going to remember when the Freddo was 5p.
Just explain for people that aren't quite sure what a Freddo bar actually is. What is a
tiny
Freddo bar?
chocolate bar in the shape of a frog. Which used to be able to get for, as I say, next to nothing. And I think it's one of those things similar to the ever-shrinking cream egg.
Oh, yeah.
It's a reminder to those of us of...
Are they actually shrinking? And are we just getting bigger?
Your mouth's just got bigger.
They are. Yeah. So one of those reminders of like how...
It just seems a ridiculous thing to be campaigning about.
It really does. I just think, you know, of all the problems we have in this country, we're talking about Freddo bars. But, hey, that's politics for you at the moment. It's a bit of a joke.
He wouldn't have made it into the Sun newspaper otherwise.
But I mean, it is... Shrinkflation is a thing.
It is.
Things are getting smaller and we're paying the same, if not more, for them, aren't we?
No, absolutely.
So there is a serious point in this as well.
No, completely. And the more pressure gets put on companies to, you know, cut sugar content and all the rest of it, otherwise they'll bring in more regulation. You'll probably see a lot more of this as well. But it'll be his own party pushing for those things, given their politics.
Yeah, but it's just the fact it's a Freddo bar. I mean, talk about a loaf of bread or something that actually matters.
I know. I don't think people are actually going to be up in arms that they're paying 20p for a Freddo bar. Like, well,
no.
I mean,
comes up on the doorstep.
But I tell you what, I'm going to raise the issue of tins of Quality Street at Christmas time.
Yeah,
they are definitely getting smaller.
Oh, no, but you know they're putting them in paper boxes now.
Yeah, well, that's not. You want a tin?
Yeah. No, I'm all for paper boxes.
No, tin.
2.1 kilograms you get for $15.99.
Right.
At the minute. I mean, that's a lot of chocolate.
But when I was a kid, that's a great big tub. It was great.
You were bigger. You were smaller.
No, they were
like that.
bigger. They were definitely bigger.
Sign of the times.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Can we have a look at... Oh, no, we haven't really got time.
No, we haven't, no.
We haven't got time. We've only got 20 seconds.
Well, what can we talk about in 20 seconds?
I don't know,
How fabulous I am.
Well, this is it.
How fabulous you are. We've done, privilege and protection.
Oh, no, that's... Yeah, very quick, because you quite fancy being protected and
Yeah, I
all
think
that
this is where
by a man.
society's gone wrong. I think a man should be a man and stick to traditional roles and want to provide and protect. I think women can treat them occasionally.
Oh, occasionally?
Yeah, occasionally.
You earn good money. You're
I do
a
earn good money.
Woman.
But I still like to be treated like I'm a prize.
Tom,
there we go.
get over there, protect your wife.
We're out of time. We're out of time. Thank you both. Here's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise showers do tend to become fewer, and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down into the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon. Brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We love luck. Mark Dolan tonight. Weekends from 9 p.m.
Harry and Meghan haven't been pictured together for weeks now. Is there trouble in paradise?
Well, I certainly think that they are rethinking some of their past decisions. This is coming from a new piece in the Daily Mail. There is clearly a professional divorce of sorts unraveling before our eyes. And the Daily Mail says it was ultimately Harry's decision because his main objective right now is to be taken seriously in the charity space. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I believe that Harry is finally taking advice from seasoned PR experts that are saying, you know what, your wife's brand is toxic. To me, I don't think Harry would make that decision on his own. He's so stubborn. He sacrificed so much for Meghan, and I can't see him admitting defeat or admitting that he made a mistake. And in allowing PR experts to make these observations and following their direction, his hands are clean, and he won't necessarily get the wrath of Meghan Markle.
Now, Harry reportedly spent his 40th birthday away from Meghan, instead hiking with his friends.
They do say that Meghan Markle is ultimately the one that planned this trip, so maybe we are being too sensitive about this, but seeing him doing his favorite thing in the world, going to Africa, to, the Well Child Awards, I think that is more alarming.
Let's talk about Prince Andrew, who's got a headache. He's on the clock. What's going on?
Yeah, that's right. He is in jeopardy of violating the Crown Estate's lease rules, which specifically outline that repairs on Royal Lodge must be made to the property in regular intervals. Otherwise, they can terminate that lease agreement. The Express reports that the Duke has been given up until the end of the year to prove that he has the financial resources to refurbish Royal Lodge, or he's going to get the boot. He's going to be evicted.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning to you. It's 100 days since the Labour government took power.
And despite promising calm, it's been anything but as the Prime Minister marks the anniversary while trying to salvage his much-touted investment summit.
Yes, but with a £1 billion port expansion now on the line, is it game over before Labour's push for growth even gets going?
And the case thickens against former Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed as 40 additional people make claims against the disgraced tycoon.
More than a century after Sir Ernest Shackleton's lost ship Endurance sank, new images shed light on the vessel that's still making headlines. This morning, his granddaughter joins breakfast ahead of a brand new documentary.
And as Portugal plans to slash taxes for under 35s, we'll be asking whether it's time to tax the young less.
A growing number of women are admitting they would rather a man paid on a first date. We've been discussing who should foot the bill in relationships.
And it's 50 years today since fast food chain McDonald's first arrived in the UK. Has it changed Britain for the better or the worse?
Manchester United are hit by a serious security breach as it emerges that their dressing room was bugged before their fixture against Aston Villa last week. Thomas Tuchel, meanwhile, throws his hat in the ring for the England job, but can the FA really afford him? We'll find out later.
It's a weekend of two halves as far as the weather's concerned. Showery rain around today, but most places fine tomorrow. Full details coming up in the forecast.
Just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast.
You've all been getting in touch on sort of chivalry and stuff and behaviour between the sexes.
Can I read mine out, please? I love this one. This is from... Thanks, Dad. This is from LF. Good morning, LF. I hope you're having a lovely weekend out there. OK, if there was an older male presenter perving on a younger female presenter, there would be outrage. Outrage. However, Dawn continues to flirt with Aidan, and he looks visibly uncomfortable. Pack it in, Dawn.
That's just my underpants.
Leave the lad alone.
Very, very uncomfortable.
Aidan, I'm making you feel very uncomfortable.
No, you're not. I've just got my trousers are a bit itchy, so that's why I'm a bit uncomfortable.
I didn't mention his trousers.
No.
No, I didn't mention his trousers.
But interestingly, of those of you getting in touch, most of you are backing what young Maxwell was saying about how you should treat a young lady on the first date.
Yes.
I just think I'd have to say I think it's a bit outdated.
Well, I mean,
to be honest, I think if whoever does the inviting should pay.
Well, yeah, I kind of
that.
agree. I mean, it did sound. Look, no, I mean, he was very charming and very sweet, and Steph Tecchi, who we had on reviewing the papers just now, agreed with him.
Yeah.
She would like a man to protect and provide and
what
treat
about
her...
differentials in earnings as well?
Well, Lee has been in touch about Stephanie. It says, Stephanie, do you not feel guilty about letting a man pay? The chances are you earn far more than many men. Oh, she's minted. She is minted.
She is absolutely loaded, actually, yeah.
But she's quite happy to let them pay.
Yeah, I don't blame her.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go. Yeah, what can you say?
Well, it's not just me flirting with Aidan. Penny has sent you a message in.
Oh, right.
Actually,
and we had one from Scarlett earlier.
Well, Penny and Scarlett, yeah, no, Penny just says, for goodness sake, Aidan, what about the cricket? Not that flirty, was it? I mean,
don't worry, we'll do it next.
Not that flirty.
Hour, don't worry about that.
All right.
I think you look lovely in blue. That's all I've said. All I've said, it looks lovely in blue.
Thanks very much.
Unlike some people who don't carry blue off quite as well.
I disagree with that.
Talk about me, obviously.
Oh, dear devil you are. Devil in disguise. Right, today marks 100 days since Labour's landslide win in July. But have we seen the change that they promised?
Despite the Prime Minister admitting he's had setbacks, he's promised not to be knocked off course.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, reflects on the party's time in office so far.
Now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal and a return of politics to public service.
That's what Sir Keir Starmer promised on the step of 10 Downing Street 100 days ago. It's been 14 years since the last Labour government. He promised an agenda full of ambition and plans to make a change. In recent weeks, his government has published its new employment rights bill, the introduction of GB Energy and lifting a ban on offshore wind.
GB Energy will be an owner and investor. It will work with the private sector to build the clean energy we need, create good jobs like those here at Hutchinson, and generate a return for the taxpayer.
But the first 100 days have not been the honeymoon for the Labour Party that many might have expected. First, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, reiterated the tough decisions she's having to take to fix a financial hole left by the last Tory government. Then, prisoners were released from jail early to ease overcrowding, and the government cut the winter fuel payment from millions of pensioners, sparking outrage across the country.
I
I think for most people, we found it quite an unusual step to have made. I didn't think, no, that I'd be tabling a motion saying give back pensioners the £300 that you've taken off them. Look, the first decision made to pick the pocket of pensioners is a mistake, and they do need to reverse that decision.
Labour promised a new way of governing, but it looked like more of the same, as Sir Keir Starmer had to shake up his number 10 team, moving Sue Gray amid a turf war amongst top advisers. That came as the government seemed to be constantly fighting a slew of claims and allegations about freebies involving the Prime Minister and his other top team in the Cabinet.
Prime Minister, you are having to reset before you've even hit 100 days in government. Your envoy for the regions isn't even here at this first summit. Is this embarrassing for you, and do you have a grip on what's happening in government?
We've just had the first meeting of the Council of Nations and Regions. I've had every First Minister here, the Deputy First Minister in Northern Ireland, and all the mayors from across England. We've had a really constructive discussion.
But the Prime Minister wouldn't answer the question. The Labour Party has not hit the ground running. Perhaps it might be realising that running a country is much harder than running an opposition. Still, it's only 100 days since polling day. Sir Keir Starmer has got time to get it right. The question for him and his top team is whether the electorate will remember any of this by the time they vote in 4 or 5 years' time. Christopher Hope, GB News.
Well, in the last hour, Sir Keir Starmer's had an interview with BBC Newscasts released, and here's what he had to say about his first 100 days.
Look, along the way, this was bumps and side winds, which, you know, I prefer we hadn't bumped into and been pushed by. But
such as?
We've had headwinds of, as I say, donation staff. I've had headwinds of the riots and disorder suddenly in the middle of the summer when I thought, right, I just need to get off for that week's holiday. We had terrible riots going on, and the situation internationally has been a sort of constant sort of pressure in terms of the decision-making that we've had to do.
A lot of pressure. Well, fair enough. Let's talk to our political correspondent, Olivia Utley. Oh, heck, I mean, you talked about headwinds and side winds, but, I mean, that's putting it a bit gently, isn't it?
I think it is putting it quite gently. The way Keir Starmer is phrasing it is that all sorts of events have happened that have been beyond his control. And, of course, in the case of the riots, that is absolutely true. That was terrible timing for the brand-new Prime Minister. But there have, of course, also been problems which you could argue are of Keir Starmer's own making, or at least of Number 10's making. There was the gifting scandal, those clothes, glasses, free tickets that were given to him by Lord Ali. No real explanation ever as to why he accepted those, and lots of complaints, both from actually his own party and from the Conservative Party, about the kind of champagne socialism that represented. One rule for them, one rule for everyone else. Then, of course, he sacked Sue Gray. Sue Gray was supposed to be his chief of staff, his right-hand woman, if you like, and she has gone after just 100 days. And the rumour is that there was a real row going on in Downing Street for those 100 days. Morgan McSweeney, who was head up the Labour general election campaign, and Sue Gray were just butting heads all the time. So there was that kind of almost Dominic Cummings-esque rows going on from within Downing Street so soon after Keir Starmer was elected. It has certainly been a very, very rocky 100 days, and Keir Starmer has seen his own popularity ratings sinking very, very quickly indeed. A couple of weeks ago, he was scoring lower than Boris Johnson. He's now on the same track as Rishi Sunak, the leader of the opposition, and even in some polls, the Conservatives are only polling 1 point behind Labour, which, when you consider where we were sort of 6 months ago, is truly astonishing. It's not been an easy first 100 days. Keir Starmer is hoping to reset now by removing Sue Gray and replacing her with Morgan McSweeney. He plans to operate a kind of boring Downing Street, he says, a sort of quiet Downing Street where politics is moving behind the scenes, making things happen, policy agenda that's going ahead, but not being the front page all the time. Let's see how that works out.
How's it gone down amongst the party in general, the whole treatment of Sue Gray? Because from what I'm hearing, is she didn't see this coming. She's actually been very upset by it, hence her taking a short break now.
She didn't see it coming. She's definitely very upset, and it's not actually clear whether she's going to accept that sort of quite nebulous role of chairman of the body of envoys and
Shamayas and
exactly
bits out there type stuff.
She hasn't decided whether she's going to accept that, and it feels very much as though she's being sort of brushed under the carpet and forgotten about. There are certainly MPs who aren't happy about that, but there are also actually lots of special advisors, some of whom I spoke to, who were really unhappy about their pay, particularly when it came out that Sue Gray was earning £170,000, £3,000 more than the Prime Minister. So there was a lot of anger at Sue Gray from within Labour, and I think what Keir Starmer is hoping is that now she's gone and he can sort of smooth things over and create a new Downing Street in his own image, because Keir Starmer has always said basically that he wants to be a boring politician, a politician who's in the background. He calls it a politics that treads more lightly on people's lives. And with Sue Gray at the helm, that certainly wasn't happening. She had very much become the story in recent weeks.
Right, talking about sort of infighting, though, and concerns within the party, what about this? What are we to make of this P&O business? Because apart from that, there's been criticism of P&O, which means their parent company is now threatening to pull out of a £1 billion deal, which is a key part of the growth strategy. But this is the Transport Secretary Louise Haigh and the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner calling P&O unscrupulous and exploitative, which now the Number 10 saying, well, that's not representative of the government.
I mean, this is a huge headache for Keir Starmer, and it sort of beggars belief that he's ended up in this position. His Transport Secretary, in a recent speech, attacked P&O Ferries and actually went as far as to suggest that because of the working conditions given to their staff, British people should boycott P&O. Now, that sounds like quite an extraordinary statement in itself, but actually it only repeats very similar to things that Angela Rayner has said in the past. The difference is that this time there is a serious context. In the next couple of months, Keir Starmer is planning to hold this huge investment conference where he's bringing in CEOs from some of the biggest companies in the world. He wants to show that Britain is a place that's open for business. That was a huge mantra of his election campaign. We're going to be the Labour Party that cares about business, that brings in business, etc., etc. Problem is that a key part of this investment conference was going to be DP World, which is the Dubai company which owns P&O Ferries. They were going to announce this £1 billion investment into London ports. Obviously now, they're not very happy. They're not very happy that the Transport Secretary has said that they would like to see P&O cruises boycotted altogether. So now DP World, P&O, i.e. P&O Ferries, is threatening to pull out of that deal altogether. And that is just what Keir Starmer doesn't need. To make matters worse, P&O do have a pretty checkered history when it comes to employee management, but they have made promises which they are going to be held to over the next few years to improve their working practices for working people. So it feels as though Louise Haigh was a bit of a bull in a china shop here. And now Keir Starmer has said, well, that she didn't represent what the government thinks. How can a government minister be talking not representing?
Just quickly, we're running out of time, Olivia. Do you think she's a dead woman walking now? I mean, Keir Starmer also took her to task over. She agreed the bumper 15% pay rise for train drivers, which he seemingly didn't actually know she was going to do.
It's very difficult to work out whether Keir Starmer has been signing off on these things and then sort of passing the buck to Louise Haigh when it turns out everything goes wrong, or if she really is acting as a kind of rogue minister and doing policy on the hoof. I think we'll find out in terms of whether or not she stays in her post.
OK.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Thank you.
Oh, dear me. You'd laugh if you could, but it's a bit too serious.
But this is all our lives. It's a £1 billion investment.
It is.
Say that when you're in opposition. Don't say it when you're in government. You're trying to pull together a deal.
Exactly.
I mean, they did behave appallingly, but now's not the time to point it out.
Right, let's talk about another big company, should we?
Oh, yes.
McDonald's. It is a mainstay at the high street. More than 1,300 branches across the country, employing more than 120,000 Brits.
Whether it's fries, a Big Mac, fillet of fish, or just some chicken nuggets, love it or loathe it, you've probably popped in. And today is the 50th anniversary of the very first British branch opening in Woolwich back in 1974.
Let's talk to consumer journalist Harry Wallop. Morning to you, Harry. I mean, look, in terms of international business success, you can't doubt what McDonald's has done.
Yeah, I mean, it's hugely influential, obviously, not just here in the UK, but around the world. And they sort of set the template for what a high street fast food chain was. I mean, they're not the first in the UK. KFC had got here before that, and we'd had things like Wimpy, but they just were so American and so brash when they entered the UK in 1974 that kind of everyone felt compelled to follow their lead. You know, they introduced the whole concept of things like kids' birthday parties out in a high street restaurant. That was where, when I was growing up in the 1980s, McDonald's was still very new and young, and that was the exciting place. If the cool kids had their birthday at McDonald's.
I've got a confession to make, Harry. I have never eaten a McDonald's in my entire life. I'm probably incredibly rare in that concept, but why is it so popular?
Well, in the early days, they expanded very quickly. So, in fact, they've got, just over 1,300 restaurants. That's actually about the same number as they had 10 years ago when they were celebrating their 40th birthday. So for a while, certainly between about the 1980s and sort of the early 2000s, they completely dominated the high street. They didn't really have any rivals who were big enough to cope with that. And so that's one of the reasons. The other second reason clearly is price. They were cheaper than nearly everyone else. And then the third thing was this excitement. They were American and they were different in a world when we didn't have very many exciting options on the high street. And that's completely changed now.
Talk about price, Harry, because it's upsetting people here. Because I don't think inflation has been worked out. Let's have a look at we've got a graphic which we can show you. So it's the price of a quarter pounder. In 1974, it was 45p. 2024, 4.99, and then in another 50 years, 25.94. Now it seems like a big difference, Harry. I've been doing the sums though. 45p in 1974 is equivalent to £5.88 today. So in fact, the price has gone down.
Yeah, that's really good maths. Well done, Stephen. That is interesting. That's how fascinating how inflation has gone over the last 50 years. I mean, I think what's a lot of people are complaining at the moment that McDonald's is no longer dirt cheap. I mean, it used to be the cheapest place to get a hot meal on the high street. I mean, that is the secret of its success. You may hate its nutritional value, you may hate what it stands for, but it sold hot, filling meals at a low price. Now, since the cost of living crisis, like everyone, they have put up their prices, and they've put up their prices by quite a bit. So a lot of people have gone, hang on a second, McDonald's isn't nearly as cheap as it once was. I could go to Tesco and get, or Sainsbury's and get one of their meal deals, but actually the same price as I could go in to get a meal at McDonald's or cheaper. And that didn't used to necessarily be the case. So I think they have struggled in the last year or so. In fact, sales fell earlier this year, they admitted, across the world, and we think in the UK too. So, life is getting a bit tougher for McDonald's, and there are far more bigger competitors out there. I mean, Costa completely dominates the high street now owned by Coca-Cola, of course. Greggs has done fantastically well. So if you're on a budget and you're looking at your pennies, McDonald's isn't necessarily the place that people go to anymore.
Do you think it is good for the high street? I mean, we always complain that our high streets are dying and we don't use them enough. So do you think McDonald's is a good thing, or do you think they're part of the reason traditional high streets with the traditional shops are dying out?
I mean, look, since we now buy 1/3 of everything we buy over the internet. So, a lot of the old-fashioned department stores, there's just a sheer ruthless logic as to why they have struggled, and many of them have closed down and left business. You can't buy a hamburger over the internet. Well, actually, you can, and of course, they do now amazingly sell a lot of their stuff through Uber Eats and Deliveroo. But you kind of get my point. The high street has become a place of gathering, which it always was, for centuries, and also a place where you have experiences. And so eating out has become, that's the main role of many high streets now, endless coffee shops. Now, whether you like a McDonald's or not, and I appreciate lots of people hate the fact that they sell not particularly nutritious food, that they are sort of, they're the worst aspects of sort of junk food Britain. But they are quite successful. They do employ a lot of people. A lot of people's first jobs are at McDonald's. They're pretty clean. They're pretty slick compared with a lot of their rivals. You know, would I prefer a McDonald's versus, you know, with a 5-star hygiene rating versus some, you know, cowboy fast food outlet, you know, fried chicken? I'm not sure. I probably would prefer McDonald's. So I don't think they're terrible for the high street. At least they are filling spaces. You know, they are taking up tenancies in a way that a lot of retailers are struggling to pay those high street rents and business rates.
OK, Harry, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed. I quite like the occasional Mackie D's.
A little what you fancy does you good. I don't think there's any harm in that. My niece loves her McDonald's. She's in her 20s now, but her first word, I'm not even joking, I'm sure it was McDonald's. She loves the McDonald's.
But it was a real treat. I mean, we didn't get McDonald's where I lived till about 1995 or something like that. But it was a real treat, as was like a Pizza Hut or something like that. It was a real treat.
And I think that's why I've probably never eaten one. It's nothing to do with me being a food snob or anything, because I'm not, believe me. But I think it's because I was brought up, we didn't have any of that. We had a Wimpy if we were lucky.
But as I say, the price of a McDonald's quarter pounder is actually cheaper now than it was 50 years ago.
I'm really impressed you did that.
Yeah, so 45p it was back in 1974, which is equivalent to £5.88 now, and it's actually £4.99.
I didn't even see you do that. I didn't see you take your socks off to count or anything.
See, I'm not just a pretty face. Not even a pretty face. OK, I get out.
Say that. Didn't say that.
Right, let's have a look at the weather for you. Here's Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into Northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise showers do tend to become fewer and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down to the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon. Brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, time is ticking on your chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash in the Great British Giveaway. There's less than 2 weeks left.
It's very simple. Here's how you do it.
Desmond, good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, Georgia. Your story is incredible. Just remind us of it. You quit running in, was it 2017? Because I mean, to be quite frank, your body was knackered, you had injuries, you thought you couldn't go on anymore. But then you started running again at Parkrun in 2022. And of course, this summer at the Olympics, you won bronze.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, it has been a bit of a journey. And yeah, there was a period of time where I stopped running completely. And then Parkrun was just something I got into with my friends, my family, just local community. And I started to see the improvements that led me to get back in contact with my old coach and just worked my way back up to elite level running and got a bronze medal this summer in Paris.
Did you ever think that would happen when you were beginning to take part in parkruns again? Did you ever think you'd be winning bronze in the 1500 metres at the Olympics?
No, not at all. It would have been absolutely bonkers, I think, to think that at the time. It was just building my way up, but it was all about finding happiness in running again. And that's really what Parkrun does, I think, really well.
And can you just tell us in the audience what had happened to you in 2017?
So I had been like a good junior athlete. I had gone over to the US on a track scholarship at university, and I just experienced so many different injuries. So various stress fractures in my shins, and I just graduated and just thought there's no way I can run anymore. So took a big break, and then yeah, over the past few years, I just got back into running slowly, built it up, and Parkrun is just something that is on every Saturday. So many parks across the UK, very accessible, free. So it was just a really good way to get back into a fun but semi-level of competitive running.
The People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 8:29. Good morning to you. Now it's taxing times. As we know, it's about to get a lot more taxing once we get to the budget at the end of this month. But not if you're a young person in Portugal. The country is planning to become a low tax haven for people under 35 by giving them a tax break.
So should our government consider similar plans to help encourage young people to stay put rather than immigrate?
Are they threatening to do that?
Well, this is the thing. It's a different country. It's not Portugal, which does have a problem with youngsters leaving to travel, etc. Most British youngsters tend to stay put.
Yeah, it's not a great emigration problem, is there? Anyway, let's talk to former Labour MP and, more recently, a Reform Party candidate, Simon Danczuk, and political commentator Jack Rowlett. Good to see you both this morning. Perhaps we do need, Simon, to look after our young people a bit more.
Oh, absolutely. I do think we should look after our young people. I think we should build more houses. I think we should radically reduce immigration. I think we should pay them a decent wage. And I think we should encourage employers to train and upskill young people. But I don't think giving them a tax cut is the solution to this issue.
OK, and we do feel like in this country we're hammering older people. But, I mean, you know, are the government right? They do tend to be helping youngsters out more than the older people. What do you make to that, Jack? Do you think maybe this is a way forward to help youngsters get on the housing ladder, sort of like, you know, earn more money?
Yeah, I think it would be a good start. You know, if you're in your 20s or early 30s in this country, had to deal with record-breaking house prices, making housing inaccessible, had to deal with high inflation, low growth, no real terms wage growth for 20 years. And, you know, I'm in my mid-20s. If I talk to people my age, a lot of them are planning to emigrate as soon as they can possibly afford to do so, because they feel like Britain is a country where everything is expensive and nothing works. And, you know, you say governments prioritizing young people and not doing enough for the old. Actually, a lot of young people, I think, feel that the opposite is the case. They feel that they've not had access to housing. They feel that they, you know, sacrificed the early parts of their careers or their education during COVID lockdowns entirely to protect older generations. You know, the virus wasn't particularly dangerous to young people.
But forgive me, Jack, how then do you, for example, start building more houses if you're reducing the tax intake?
Well, I think we should be getting the private sector to build housing wherever possible. One of the big reasons why we haven't been able to build enough housing is not that there isn't the money to do it. It's that the planning system prevents us from building them. It's far too restrictive. So that's the issue there. And I think we need to prevent a brain drain occurring in Britain because so many young people are now talking about moving abroad. Also, if we want to cut immigration, which I know a lot of people do, then we need to be increasing our tax base at home and encouraging people to have more children here in the UK. People are having children at an older age, they're having fewer children because they can't afford to have them. And so I think a tax break policy like this might well encourage younger people to be able to have children at a younger age because they can afford to do so. And that would be good for all of us.
Simon, I mean, Jack mentioned there that building more houses. I mean, but that is another thing that's aimed at helping youngsters, isn't it, to build more houses, getting on the housing ladder. And, do you think that maybe the government are prioritising older people over younger? Because lots of our viewers don't feel that's happening.
I'm not sure the government are prioritising anybody at this moment in time. It'll be interesting to see what the budget brings. But you hit the nail on the head, Dawn. Portugal is radically different to the United Kingdom. It's only got a population of 10 million people. It's losing about 850,000 young people on a regular basis leaving the country. That's not the case in Britain. We want young people to feel paid up members of society. That's the sort of culture we should create. They should pay the same taxes as everybody else. There's no reason to give them a cut in taxation. They should be paying just what everybody else pays. That makes complete sense. But the elephant in the room is lots of young men coming into Britain illegally, being given everything on a plate. And it's no surprise that young people are turning to right-wing parties in their droves in the UK and across Europe because they're not happy with this current situation. And until we address that issue, there'll be no point in providing tax incentives or anything else.
I just wonder, Jack, because you mentioned this idea of more money for young people means more children earlier on and all the rest of it. And that's all well and good. The problem you've got with that is in the slightly longer term, isn't it? The medium term, where you're going to end up with a system which is top heavy. You're going to have a lot of younger people not paying tax as those children get older. You're going to have an ageing population who are paying less tax if they're not working, though not no tax at all. So you're going to have that middle group, anyone from 35 to 65, 70, being absolutely hammered to keep everybody else afloat.
Yeah, I think the problem is the longer you leave it, the worse that problem becomes when you finally solve it. You end up with a system that's even more top-heavy and even more bottom-heavy. We've left it for so long. And if we do want to cut immigration, it's a choice, really. If you want to reduce immigration, we need to increase our own tax base domestically because we do have an ageing population. That ageing population is going to massively increase over the next few decades. If we want high-quality public services and economic growth, we're going to need to increase our own tax base. And the only way you can do that whilst cutting migration is to encourage people currently living in Britain to have more children. And they need more money in their pocket to be able to do that.
Jack, I just want to read this one message out to you from Chippy, who's watching at the moment. This younger generation has been born into a give me society. They want everything for now. I pay tax and national insurance in full since I was 16. I'm 60 now. Get a grip. What would you say to Chippy?
I would say if you're in your 60s now, then when you were my age, housing was 3 times the average annual income. Now it's 10 times the average annual income. If you're in your 60s now, then if you had a university education, it would have been free, whereas I'm in 70 grand of debt for mine. If you're in your 60s now, then your peak earning years would have been when taxes were low and public spending was at a decent sort of level, whereas I've graduated into a jobs market of stagnant wages. Wages haven't grown for literally as long as I can remember. So I think the idea of young people today being give me is based on a cheap and lazy stereotype and doesn't reflect the lived experience of people in their 20s and 30s now at all.
All right, we've got to leave it there. Jack, Simon, thank you both very much indeed. It's a controversial issue, actually.
I've never... I mean, there's always been an age gap, of course. There's always been sort of like that, you know, the younger generation don't know they're born and the older generation don't know, you know, they had it so lucky. But I just think that divide is getting wider and wider at the moment. I really do. Not helped by many of the policies governments of all colours have introduced.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of you getting in touch on this.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. There's so many different aspects to the argument, actually. I'm not sure giving tax cuts to a whole load of people. You've got to be invested in society, haven't you? A lot of people saying, well, you should follow what Nigel Farage said in Reform, which was, you know, make every tax-free until you earn more than £20,000. But then, actually, doesn't that mean there's a whole load of people who aren't invested in society?
Yeah.
Even if you're just paying a very, very, very low percent, 1% tax, just paying something back. I don't know. I'm not an economist.
Lots of people moaning, saying that the younger generation with university... I'm sorry, I've lost your name, but sort of like, well, don't go to university, go and build some houses.
Well, yeah, I think probably the whole university thing needs to be looked at.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right.
Golly gosh.
We'll leave that there. We've got the sport for you in just a second.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Earlier this week, Olympic swimmer Adam Peaty finally proposed to his girlfriend, because I've been waiting for this, the daughter of Gordon Ramsay, with a gorgeous yellow diamond ring.
Yeah, so the demand for coloured diamonds in the last 10 years has soared by, guess how much, 77% between 2010 and 2019. Joining us now to tell us more about some of the hottest trends in the diamond world is dealer to the stars, Neil Dutson. Good morning, Neil. Morning, Ben. And I've got one of your exemplary examples. Look at this bad boy.
So that's a very rare Muso Colombian emerald. And it's alpine green translucent, so it's a really stunning
See if we get a close-up.
So, yeah, so pretty impressive.
Can I be very crude and ask how much this is worth?
So value is £200,000.
How much, sorry?
£200,000. Now, the reason is its rarity. It's minor oiling. It's very, very, very pretty. The two diamonds on the side are D-colour, flawless diamonds, just to accentuate the setting.
Neil, how did you get into diamonds?
I studied diamonds in Antwerp. So Antwerp used to be the diamond capital of the world, really. Yeah. 85% of the world's diamonds go through Antwerp, or used to. And now Dubai has taken over. And yeah, I just went to a school there. I learnt about diamonds, and I just didn't want to be seen off in the future.
Neil, I'm very concerned I'm going to drop 200 grand's worth of diamonds into my cup of tea, so can I give that back?
Absolutely.
But I can hold one if you like.
Oh, well, I've got
Neil.
a lovely one here.
Thank you.
So this is a fancy vivid yellow. It's 8 carats.
This is my dream ring, just so you know, for this hand. This would be
is it big
amazing.
enough?
So what would I call this? A yellow?
So that's a natural fancy vivid yellow diamond. Value £300,000. So,
it fits
depends
like
where you're buying it from.
It fits like a glove, Neil.
Oh.
Maybe it's a sign. It's meant to be mine.
Definitely a sign, yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Conservative MPs have finally chosen their top 2 for the leadership. And now, it's over to the members. Join me, Christopher Hope, on Thursday as Kevin Badenoch and Robert Jenrick are quizzed by Conservative Party members and myself at our GB News leadership event.
And afterwards, join me, Patrick Christys, with a live studio audience and a star panel as we discuss what it means for the Conservative Party and what it means for you. Decision Time, the race to lead, from 7 p.m. this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, let's get some juicy gossip from broadcaster Ada McGee.
Nice to see you.
Who I'm not allowed to flirt with. God, you look gorgeous
I don't mind.
this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Really
well,
do.
the FA are flirting with Thomas Tuchel right now.
Nicely done.
Nicely done. Well, they are, because look...
But isn't it interesting how we've gone from saying old what's-his-face was a shoo-in
Carsley, yeah, well, you know, I love
and then all of a sudden, one game, and it's like he's finished.
Well, his tactics were so terrible the other night. They were so ill-advised, and they sort of invited defeat that the Sun have put on their back page today, Kamikaze, which I absolutely loved.
Good headline.
Yeah, look, I mean, as soon as the incumbent manager hits a few choppy waters, shall we say, yeah, of course, the vultures start circling. I'm not saying that Thomas Tuchel necessarily falls into that category because he has a stellar CV in his own right. He won the Champions League with Chelsea just 3.5 years ago. But my question would be, can the FA actually afford him? I mean, you know, as Bayern Munich coach and as Chelsea coach, he'd have been used to getting somewhere between £6 and £12 million a year.
What do you get for being England manager?
Well, look, they still pay very good money. I mean, we're talking £5 million here, I would have thought. That's what Southgate was on. And I think that deal was done a few years ago now, so they'd expect to pay a little bit more. But you look at the table in front of you, which I've kindly provided.
Kindly.
Yeah. Roberto Mancini, who is probably about 3 or 4 years overcooked now. You know, he was in his prime at Man City 10, 12 years ago. He won the Euros with Italy in 2021, of course. But he's in Saudi Arabia. They haven't even said in this list the team that he plays for because they're so nondescript. They've just said he's in Saudi Arabia and he's earning £21.5 million a year.
Yeah, but that's Saudi for you.
It is. Well, this is the problem. But the FA are competing. They've got the same problem with any club that's in the Premier League that's run by ordinary business people. They're up against a club. They're up against entities which are funded by states.
Yeah, but isn't the issue here that places like Saudi is where you go out to pasture?
It is. Well, yeah, possibly, but it's a nice place to go to pasture if you can earn more than you've ever earned anywhere else in your career. I mean, Mancini, when I was up in Manchester, it was well known that he was on a basic of £9 million a year at Manchester City. If you'd said to him 15 years ago that in 2024 you'd be earning more than twice what you're earning now, he'd probably said I was mad, wouldn't he?
Probably.
You know, it's crazy. But then if you look at... I was surprised Eric Ten Hag, I mean, according to the list as well, 6.8 million at Man United. Yes, it's not quite as impressive as some of the other salaries on that list, but I think if the FA are paying £5 million, I mean, how much do you think Lee Carsey's on as the under-21 coach?
Oh, well, I don't know.
300 grand. I mean, it's good money, don't get me wrong, it's good money for coaching football.
300 grand?
But, yeah.
It's a hell of a difference.
Yeah.
It is. And I don't think the FA are necessarily looking for the cheap option, but I don't know, but maybe Thomas Tuchel just thinks, well, look, he's done PSG, he's done Chelsea, he's done Bayern Munich, he's done Borussia Dortmund. Maybe he fancies being the man who can finally lift England over the line and win a World Cup because, I mean, let's face it, they've got the players, I'm certain of that. And I think a few people outside of England might be looking at it and thinking, well, all these guys have failed, and it appeals to the egos of certain individuals. Thomas Tuchel would be one of them, I would have thought. He maybe thinks, well, look, the players are there. Surely someone's got to get it right. And if you can get... And if it's only a short-term thing, £5-6 million a year, and you do a good job there, and it takes you into a big club job, I can see how the logic fits into place.
I never ever understand why England constantly foul, unless you're talking about the women.
For sure. But Sam Allardyce always said to me that the problem was in the players' heads, and you know, we talk about all these club managers earning this big money. There's nothing in terms of pressure. There's nothing quite like managing England.
Do the players care as much, do you think?
I think
do they care when they're playing for England as much as they used to?
I think they do. I think they really do, because it's a hard gig and it's tough, don't get me wrong, but the rewards for succeeding are actually... I mean, you're set up for life. I mean, you're you know, even if you're a player who's in the squad, you're going to get media work for the rest of your life. I've had so many players said to me down the years, oh, yeah, but it'd be great to get more media work, but I never played for England, so that's why I don't get called on.
Right, well, on that note, making us all feel very, very inadequate.
Again.
We're going to leave it there. See you in a bit.
Thank you.
Right, we've got the papers for you. In just a minute, don't go anywhere.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
My kingdom for a voice. Scientists have... I can't believe this story. Scientists have incredibly recreated the voice of Richard III using both his skull shape and a knowledge of medieval speech patterns. Me neither. The result is that the king, who was famously killed at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485, would have spoken in English close to that of a man from modern-day Yorkshire or Somerset. Let's take a listen.
The sun shines with no less light and splendour, nor does it suffer any diminution of its strength.
Let's discuss this further with Yvonne Morley-Chisholm, the voice coach behind the project, who spent 10 years researching how the monarch would have sounded. Yvonne, you can probably see from my face, I have no idea how this works. Can you enlighten me as to what all this is about?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Dawn. So yes, I had a mad idea 10 years ago. I normally work with actors where we have a recording of a historical person, and we do something called vocal profiling to train the actor who's going to be performing on stage or screen to move their tongue tip, their jaw, their lips, everything, and get behind the personality of who they're playing. We obviously have quite a lot of that missing from Richard. We don't have a recording of him, but I wondered how far we could go. And a key player in this has been and is Professor Caroline Wilkinson, who over a decade ago created his face, first of all, from his skull. Now, on the day we, as Shakespeare would say, shuffle off our mortal coil, every little dent and dimple in the bones says how fit and strong the muscles were. So I thought, OK, we know what his face could do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Calm down. Let's talk about the papers.
It's not me. 8:48. Showbiz reporter Stephanie Tetsuya, editor of Spike. Tom Slater taking us through the papers. The Prime Minister will not be blown off course. Tom, he tells The Guardian.
Yes. Just sort of saying everything is fine. I promise you, everything is fine. So yeah, he's given an interview to The Guardian for his 100 days. He's been doing the media rounds, of course, and just trying to turn the page, I guess, on all of the scandals, all of the mounting questions about what this government is really for and what it's doing. He's trying to change the mood music, talking about how in the upcoming budget it's expected that Rachel Reeves is going to change the fiscal rules, which allow them to borrow to invest. So maybe there's a bit more coming, a bit more kind of sunlit uplands. But nevertheless, the outlook's pretty bleak, isn't it? I mean, it's... People
well, it is as we're waiting for the budget, which we're told is going to be awful.
No, exactly. And that's one thing which I really don't understand, was that just on the basis of, even if you felt like things did have to get worse before they get better, you don't keep saying that all the time. Not just does it not keep the country on side, it also scares the horses in terms of the economic outlook and investment and so on. So, yeah, he's going to be facing an uphill battle if he wants to really change the mood going into the next few years.
And none of the stuff, you know, the non-dom tax, which was going to pay for everything, even the fuel thing for pensioners, that isn't going to make as much money as they thought it would do. I mean, it's like, where's all this money coming from? They're going to grow things with.
Well, that's the big million pound question, which I think, you know, they've just hit the ground not running in that sense as a government, and they've just kind of picked the wrong battles with people who would want to support Keir Starmer. And I just think, I don't know why he's read the room wrong, and I don't know, I feel sorry for him in the sense where he needs to support as a Prime Minister to restore this country, but it seems like he's not supporting the everyday man and everyday woman of this country. So in order for, you know, it's good for him to say, oh yeah, I'm going to ignore the critics, but they are going to continue to come when he does silly things like that.
Let's talk about this story in the Mail, Stephanie, which is... I mean, it would be frightening enough, this young woman, really, who murdered both her parents and kept the bodies for 4 years. She's just been jailed for a very, very long time. But it's the video of her arrest which is doing the rounds, which is terrifying.
Stephen, I felt like I was watching a scene of a horror film.
Yeah.
Just the fact that she was so placid, like, I knew this day was coming. You've caught the bad guy. I've been living in the same house where my parents' bodies have been hidden upstairs for 4 years. I don't think this woman should have been sent to prison. I think she should have been sectioned because it's just such a horrifying story. And, you know, I thought she was an only child. She's actually one of 5 daughters. But there's so many questions about this case because how do 2 people go missing or be killed for 4 years and no one rang the alarm earlier than this, earlier than last year? It just doesn't make sense.
Especially the other siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
where's
just
mum and
doesn't
dad?
make... You know, apparently she was imitating her mum's voice on the phone and she was pretending to send gifts from them. And it's just... I just don't think in this day and age a couple could be murdered and be hidden for 3 years. It's quite scary.
I mean, in all the years I've worked on newspapers, I've never, ever seen a thing like that. I think we've got a little clip of when she was arrested, just in case you haven't seen how chilling it is.
Where will we find your mum?
Well, possible.
Where will we find your mum?
OK, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed at the back, next to the sink. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy.
You've caught
Cheer up, you've caught the bad guy.
Nonchalant as well. You think she was explaining to them where the spare set of car keys are or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
incredible when you see it.
I mean, there's a clip of her actually when she's in the holding cell saying, "Oh, you will find a knife. It's a bit rusty, but it has got blood splatter on it." And all this, it's really hard.
She's not well.
She's.
I feel sorry for the family, but you know.
It's like you say, Stephanie. I can't understand the siblings. I mean, there are other children.
Unless there's been a big falling out in the family, maybe we don't know.
Exploited that situation.
Yeah, maybe. Tom, can we talk about 7 days of hot weather on the way?
Yes.
You, what sport, Charles?
So from October the 17th, we're in England and particularly London and the South East, we're looking at 21 degrees apparently. So a kind of late bit of Indian summer.
Wow.
So I think in typically English style, I think as soon as it gets even slightly warmer than usual, people are, acting as if it's,
Well, we've got to make the most of it.
Get your shorts out.
Do make the most of it while it's here.
But plus, the reason tabloids put this on the front page because it actually sells.
I can imagine.
It really does. Even if most of us are sitting there looking at our apps going, "That's rubbish," we'll still buy it. Yeah. Seriously,
it's not rubbish. Brilliant.
We've been deprived of a summer, so bring it on. Bring on the Indian
come on,
summer.
we had that afternoon, Steph.
Yeah, we did.
That long, hot afternoon. I mean, how we survived.
Stephanie, you're a lady who likes to be looked after.
Of course.
Would you fancy getting a robot to do all the stuff for you?
No.
Oh.
Elon Musk is bringing out his army of robots for £23,000. They're called the Optimus robots, and apparently they can help you walk your dog, mow your lawn and get the groceries and serve anything else that you need help doing in the household. And I just think, can we just get rid of these robots? Why are we trying to make humans more lazy? Like, robots... Didn't anyone watch iRobot and see what happened?
Yeah, I've seen... Yeah.
And the robots took over? No. I'm not a robot fan. I think let humans remain active.
Oh, a robot to walk the dog, though. I can see the appeal of that.
Oh, stop.
Elderly people would be useful, wouldn't it? Just be able to, do the chores and whatnot.
Yeah.
So you can see the plus sides, but there is something just innately creepy when you see them kind of moving around.
Yeah, they're scary.
Right, we're out of time,
seen
you
the film.
two real humans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, darling.
It's the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into Northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise showers do tend to become fewer and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down into the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon. Brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers.
There's only luck. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tell us about this film, because it's obviously come from your own experiences.
We wanted to create something for the entertainment industry that wasn't just another kind of dull documentary. I mean, some of them are brilliant, they're very informative, but you kind of leave a bit bewildered and a little bit kind of flat. So we thought, I've got a passion for writing and you've obviously got an unbounded knowledge on the subject. Why don't we create a film with a kind of satirical look on eating disorders?
So this came it's been made 20 years after your own...
It is 20 years.
20 years,
practically to the day.
So Samantha, you suffered with OCD and an eating disorder as well?
Yes.
And that's when your mum became a counsellor, is that right?
A little bit later on, I think we spent a bit of time in the system and I realised that it wasn't working for us. So I took it on myself to learn as much as I could about the subject.
I call it a tragedy, probably the wrong word, but
suffering. No, it is a tragedy because mental ill health and eating disorders destroy the lives of not only the sufferers but their families as well.
But you've turned that into something so positive and so
It's
inspiring.
amazing, really, that 20 years ago our story was just beginning, and 20 years on, we've done what we've done. But I have to say that very little has changed in the system.
I've heard that.
And I think that's what we're passionate about.
Yeah, so...
that was why we wanted to... I mean, I work with families every day and I see the destruction that eating disorders and other mental illnesses not just bring to the sufferer, but the whole family.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really passions me, because obviously 20 years ago we were there. And I just feel that so much more needs to be done. And I think with eating disorders, there is still a lot of misunderstanding around the subject.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Morning to you. It is 100 days since the Labour government took office.
And despite promising calm, it's been anything but, as the Prime Minister marks the anniversary while trying to salvage his much-touted investment summit.
Yes, but with a £1 billion port expansion now on the line, is it game over before Labour's push for growth even gets going?
And the case thickens against former Harrods owner Mohammed Al Fayed as 40 additional people make claims against the disgraced tycoon.
Over a century after Sir Ernest Shackleton's lost ship Endurance sank, new images shed light on the vessel, still making headlines. Very shortly, we're going to talk to his granddaughter ahead of a brand new documentary detailing the incredible story.
And it's World Arthritis Day as we pay tribute to the 10 millions of Brits living with this awful condition.
Now, a growing number of women are admitting they'd rather a man paid on a first date. We've been discussing who should foot the bill.
And it's 50 years today since fast food chain McDonald's first arrived in the UK. Has it changed Britain for better or worse?
Manchester United are hit by a serious security breach as it emerges that their dressing room was bugged before their fixture at Aston Villa last week. Thomas Tuchel, meanwhile, throws his hat in the ring for the England job, and Novak Djokovic reacts to the retirement of his old rival, Rafa Nadal.
It's a weekend of two halves as far as the weather's concerned. Showery rain around today, but most places fine tomorrow. Full details coming up in the forecast.
Just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is GB News Breakfast.
The one thing, there's always one topic every morning that gets people going
Yeah.
in the programme. And today it's about dates.
Yeah.
And who pays on the first date. And I have to say, the vast majority of you are saying it should be the men. The men should
Really?
pay.
I see. Because the story is that younger women actually would rather a man pay. And I thought that many of you out there, certainly women around my age group, would be thinking, no, don't really agree with that. But I'm wrong, aren't I?
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't
well,
happen
both
often,
wrong.
but...
I think it's an ego thing for a lot of men as well. I do think that. Because I was speaking to a friend of mine just the other day and he said he couldn't bear to go out with a woman who earned more than him. So if you're talking about
really?
that, yeah, if you're saying that, then you could apply that same logic to, it would probably follow quite naturally that person wouldn't want to pay, well, would want to pay for, insist on paying for dates.
That's a bit misogynistic, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say so.
I've got to, I can't have anyone, I've got to be the top dog.
Yes, I agree, I completely agree. But then I think it follows on from that person would also seek to pay on a first date to make himself, or on any date to make himself feel better.
It is interesting. I mean, really, meanwhile, I just want to say hi to Kenneth. Hi, Kenneth. Please tell Dawn, hi, you can tell me yourself, she looks sad, not funny, ogling the young sportsman. Sad lady.
He's not young.
Oh, that's
He's not young, Kenneth. He was 47 yesterday.
Oh, no, don't...
I didn't say that.
Yeah, no, I
Happy
kept it
birthday
quiet.
for yesterday.
Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate
And that's why I'm ogling him and being nice to him.
Yeah,
Because he's old now. Not that young.
Sympathetic is what it is. And definitely you wouldn't pay on a first date with Aidan. To make his earn his...
At my age, love, I would. Any case, thanks, Kenneth. Carry on watching, mate.
Right, let's crack on, should we, with the news, because it's 100 days today since Labour's landslide win at the general election. But what's happened to all this change that we were promised?
Oh, yeah, despite the Prime Minister admitting he's had setbacks, he's promised not to be knocked off course.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, reflects on the party's time in office so far.
Now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal and a return of politics to public service.
That's what Sir Keir Starmer promised on the step of 10 Downing Street 100 days ago. It's been 14 years since the last Labour government. He promised an agenda full of ambition and plans to make a change. In recent weeks, his government has published its new employment rights bill, the introduction of GB Energy and lifting a ban on offshore wind.
GB Energy will be an owner and investor. It will work with the private sector to build the clean energy we need, create good jobs like those here at Hutchinson, and generate a return for the taxpayer.
But the first 100 days have not been the honeymoon for the Labour Party that many might have expected. First, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, reiterated the tough decisions she's having to take to fix a financial hole left by the last Tory government. Then, prisoners were released from jail early to ease overcrowding, and the government cut the winter fuel payment from millions of pensioners, sparking outrage across the country.
I think for most people we found it quite an unusual step to have made. I didn't think, that I'd be tabling a motion saying give back pensioners the £300 that you've taken off them. Look, the first decision made to pick the pocket of pensioners is a mistake, and they do need to reverse that decision.
Labour promised a new way of governing, but it looked like more of the same, as Sir Keir Starmer had to shake up his number 10 team, moving Stu Gray amid a turf war amongst top advisers. That came as the government seemed to be constantly fighting a slew of claims and allegations about freebies involving the Prime Minister and his other top team in the Cabinet.
Prime Minister, you are having to reset before you've even hit 100 days in government. Your envoy for the regions isn't even here at this first summit. Is this embarrassing for you, and do you have a grip on what's happening in government?
We've just had the first meeting of the Council of Nations and Regions. I've had
every First Minister here, the Deputy First Minister in Northern Ireland, and all the mayors from across England. We've had a really constructive discussion.
But the Prime Minister wouldn't answer the question. The Labour Party has not hit the ground running. Perhaps he might be realising that running a country is much harder than running an opposition. Still, it's only 100 days since polling day, so Keir Starmer has got time to get it right. The question for him and his top team is whether the electorate will remember any of this by the time they vote in 4 or 5 years' time. Christopher Hope, GB News.
Well, that's the government, and you've got to say, without being party political, it's chaotic at the moment, which is all very depressing, but it's also chaotic on the opposition benches, of course, because they haven't got a leader at the moment, though we do know it's down to Kemi Badenoch or Robert Jenrick, and we've got the big debate live on GB News on Thursday. We talked to Robert Jenrick yesterday. Let's talk to Kemi Badenoch supporter, Kevin Hollinrake, who joins us now. Kevin, good to see you, as always. But my first question has got to be, and I'm not trying to be rude, but why are we talking to you and not Kemi? Why is she not doing the rounds, coming on shows like this to try and win support over?
Well, I see her on the media a lot, Steve, and she was out campaigning last week for the by-elections. She's out on members' events today, so I don't think there's any shortage of appearances for Kemi Badenoch across the media. So, and she's getting a message across really well.
Frankly,
and the members I speak to, we've got the big decision to take over the next few weeks. Predominantly, I think, are supporting Kemi for all the right reasons. Principally because she says what needs to be said.
But Kevin, is that the reason she's not? I mean, because, with all due respect, she's not actually doing as many media interviews, certainly as Robert Jenrick. And we would love to talk to her, but is that the reason she's not doing these media interviews? Because she does open her mouth, as her critics would say, without sometimes engaging her brain.
Well, you need to tell me what you're talking about, Dawn. I hear what Kemi says, and I agree with the vast majority of it. I mean, you're never going to agree with everything everybody says, and in politics, you can't please all the people all the time, and nor should you try. And Kemi doesn't try to do that. She says what she thinks, and I really welcome that.
It's just the fact she has no filter. Look, I respect her, and I think Kemi does talk a straight game, which is very unusual in politics. But she doesn't have a filter, and maybe in politics that's what you need.
I don't agree with that. I mean, tell me what she said that you don't agree with. But whatever she said that you don't agree with, somebody else might agree
it's not that I agree or disagree with her, Kevin, to be honest with you. It's just that she comes out with things that can be very inflammatory, and maybe that's why she's not doing as many media interviews as her rival, Robert Jenrick, is.
Well, what I like about her and what the people I speak to like about her is she says what needs to be said, and she says what other people won't say. I mean, what she said a couple of weeks ago about not all cultural values being equally valid, I totally agree with that. And she was roundly condemned by elements of the media, not by you. One thing we've got to remember is the reason GB News was set up in the first place, because you felt that elements of the media had gone so far to the left wing that was almost considered centre ground. What Kemi's trying to do is bring us back to the centre ground, back to sensible thinking. So she's brave. Yes, she's bold. She's willing to say what she thinks. And people like that. And I really like that, which is the reason I'm supporting her.
It's interesting. Well, yeah, but the whole point is, yes, talking to Rob Jenrick yesterday, because one of his key points, which he can push now, is this idea of transparency. He's offering, what he's offering is a level of transparency. He's saying what he thinks. He's explaining why he thinks it. He's saying why he's the man for the job. Now, without Kemi Badenoch coming on and actually addressing our viewers and listeners with her arguments, it's an open goal for him, so in terms of the media, at least.
I mean, I don't think you can honestly say that Kemi does not go on the media and tell people what she thinks. I've not had any... I mean, it's true to say that, Rob, he run his campaign as he sees fit, and he's been very detailed on some of his policies. Kemi, my experience of her, working for 18 months within the Department of Business and Trade, has a different approach. What she does is build a really strong team. She picks the right people who believe in what her approach, and then she, obviously wants to know exactly what you're going to do in terms of what your direction travel is going to be, and then she leaves you to it. I think she'll build a strong team, she'll delegate, but based upon the first principles that she believes in. real conservative principles, which I think reflect the centre ground. They're not somehow right-wing, they're the centre ground. It's just that what we hear in the media too much has shifted so far left, the centre ground has almost been left behind.
Yes, but what you have to do, whatever your ground is, what you have to be prepared to do to be a leader, and as she would want to be a Prime Minister, is to be scrutinised. I mean, that's what democracy is all about.
Well, as I say, I've seen her in the media a lot of long interviews. She's written in the media. She's obviously at lots of different events. She was campaigning last week. She's at members' events today. That's her principal job now, Steve, is to speak to as many members as possible around the country, which is what she's doing, because people who have the vote for the next few weeks are our members. From then, of course, over the next 4 years, she's got to develop a raft of policies that are then going to hopefully meet the wishes of the electorate. I think she will. I think people, the wider electorate, will come to see what Kemi really stands for, and I think they'll like what they see. Of course, some elements are not going to like it, but that's Kemi all over. She doesn't want to please all the people all the time. She wants to do what she thinks right, and then if people want to support us, all well and good.
Kevin, to be fair to Kemi, I mean, she has stuck to her principles. She's had the same message from day one. Unlike Robert Jenrick, who does appear to have shifted further to the right, what do you make of the way he appears to change his position depending on what people want to hear?
Well, I'm not going to get involved in an attack on my own colleagues, and I think Ronald Reagan called that the 11th deadly sin. You know, Rob has got his own campaign to run. I'm supporting Kemi's campaign. I think she's refreshing. I think she's bold. I think she's strong. But crucially, what I think sets Kemi apart from many people, particularly the Labour leader, the Prime Minister, it's not gloom and doom. It is optimism for the future. She believes in this country's past. She believes in its present, and she believes in its future. And I think the citizens of this country will have better opportunity under Kemi, and so will the country as a whole. That's why I'm backing Kemi Badenoch.
She's been described as a work in progress. Is that accurate?
I don't know who you're referring to. That's not what I call her. I mean, I think she's proven to be extremely competent. As Secretary of State, she's Secretary of State for Business and Trade. You know, she's. I found her incredibly constructive to work for. She brought forward the advanced manufacturing plan. You know, people say, "Oh my God, you know, she's untested and untried." She's been a Secretary of State, and she did extremely well in that role. So yes, of course, you know, as a leadership contender and as a leader of the opposition and a future Prime Minister, then you need to develop your range of policies right across the piece. That's what Kemi will do, but she starts with these first principles, which are proper, sensible first principles. I mean, look what she did in terms of things like single-sex spaces or women's prisons, where men were going into women's prisons. She was brave enough to stand up and say that is wrong. And that was kind of received wisdom at one point. In fact, Scotland legislated to that effect. So that's what Kemi's like. She's a centre-ground, common-sense person. And I think people more and more will see that it is Kemi that's in the centre ground, or the centre-right, and not that somehow she's right-wing. She attracts support from all the whole spectrum of politics. And you can see that by the members of Parliament who are supporting her. People originally supported her, and the people who have come into her campaign in recent weeks and recent days, including Damien Green, who's one of the One Nation Tories.
Yeah, but that's what's slightly unusual about this. As Dawn mentioned before, I mean, there has been criticism of Rob Jenrick sort of positioning himself from you know, centre ground to the right. That's how it's perceived. Well, it's very interesting that now you're pitching, and Damien Green in some of the papers this morning seems to be very much wanting to pitch Kemi Badenoch as being centre ground when she has been considered to the right of the party.
Well, I wonder why people consider she's to the right of the party. What she said that puts her on the right of the party. I mean, it stands for common sense. Okay, she wants to control immigration. Why is that at all controversial? Securing your borders. Do you think that where women's toilets should be for women? Why is that at all controversial? Is it that somehow Kemi is right-wing, or is it the fact that the media has gone incredibly left-wing, which I think is more the case? All she's doing is bringing us back into the centre ground. We're a centre-right party, and we should be proud of that. I don't think in any way what I've seen about Kemi is that she's right-wing. I think she just stands for common sense.
OK, Kevin, we'll have a word with her and get her on here next week, and then we can ask her personally. Do us a favour. Thank you very much, Kevin, for joining us there.
Right, so we talked to Olivia Utley, who's here. I just wondered what your take is on that. I was conscious during that there may be some people watching and listening saying, well, why are you just attacking because she's not coming on the show? However, there is a need, isn't there, for some level of transparency and to be questioned and challenged about what you're proposing.
Well, you're certainly not the only one who has been questioning why Kemi Badenoch hasn't been appearing a little bit more on the media channels. Her team say that what she's doing is getting on with the job of the leader of the opposition, and rather than getting as much media time as she can, she's going around the country and talking to Conservative associations, the people who will actually be voting in this leadership contest. But whether you can say that talking to Conservative associations is the main job of the leader of the opposition, I'm not so sure about. It was a bit of a strange campaign from Kemi Badenoch. At the start of it in particular, she didn't really campaign through most of August after the campaign had started, and only really got into it in September, which perhaps explains why during the middle of the campaign, sorry, at least, it felt as though she wasn't picking up very much momentum at all. Now she seems to be doing a little bit better. She came actually first with Robert Jenrick 1 vote behind in the final vote last week. And as far as the membership are concerned, they do like Kemi a little bit more than they like Robert Jenrick. So it could be simply that Kemi is sort of pushing her head down and hoping that Jenrick will make a mistake as she feels she's the leader.
But surely, I mean, the best way to reach the widest audience, rather than talking to the local groups, is to go on the media and address the audience.
Well, yeah, and some people are questioning whether Kemi Badenoch is a bit reluctant to go on the media because of pretty disastrous interviews, let's be honest, that she's done in the past during Conservative Party conference, where she suggested in a media interview that maternity pay in this country, statutory maternity pay, had gone too far, was paying too much money towards maternity pay. She then sort of backtracked and said that that wasn't actually what she'd said and that she'd been misrepresented. You can watch the interview yourselves and make up your own minds, but it did feel like a bit of a misstep. So it could be that she's simply not really willing to enter into too many media conversations because she is afraid of taking another misstep like that. But if that is indeed the case, then that doesn't bode particularly well for her chances as leader of the opposition.
No, it's all very odd, isn't it? Just when we're sort of trying to work out who is going to be the leader of the opposition at a time when 100 days in this Labour government, it seems pretty clear there needs to be a strong leader of the opposition to try and hold the government to account.
Well, absolutely. Keir Starmer's just released a little social media video about his first 100 days in office, and even he is pretty willing to admit that there have been a few missteps, a few headwinds, I think he calls them. The way he's framed it is that there are all sorts of events that have happened that are beyond his control and beyond Labour's control. And in the case of the riots that took place over the summer, that is probably fair enough. That was not a problem of Labour's making. But of course, there have been problems of Keir Starmer's making too, including that gifting scandal where all of the thousands and thousands of pounds worth of gifts he received from Lord Ali, some of which he's now given back. Scandal at the moment involving, well, a potential real headache for the Prime Minister, really. This investment conference that Keir Starmer is supposed to be leading, a key part of that was supposed to be this £1 billion investment from Dubai company DP World. But problematically for Keir Starmer, DP World own P&O Ferries, and his Transport Secretary, Louise Hay, has just suggested that British citizens boycott P&O Ferries because of the way that they treat their customers. So these problems do feel as though they're piling up for Keir Starmer. It seems like he's doing a reset in his first 100 days. His message is basically, we've had 14 years of trouble to fix. We can't fix it all in 100 days, but I've got a new chief of staff and I'm sort of ready and raring to go. But as you say, definitely feels like the country needs a strong leader of the opposition.
OK. Olivia, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, of course, when it comes to the opposition, Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch battle it out for that leadership in a special live event here on GB News next Thursday, 17th of October. So do watch that live, and then, of course, it's all about making your own mind up.
Exactly. We can hear what Kemi has to say then.
Yeah.
Exactly. OK, it's time for the weather. Before that, though, with Aidan McGibbon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into Northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise showers do tend to become fewer and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down into the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon. Brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Oh, goodness, I thought we were going straight to a break. But no!
We're back!
You're back with us, and we're going to be talking to the swimmer Sharon Davis coming up in just a moment about arthritis. It is World Arthritis Day today.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Please tell me that we're British. In our darkest hour, we can work around this. The beer will still be flowing at Christmas. Tell me, please.
Martin, without using bad language, there's no words to describe that this is another major blow to the hospitality sector. I wake up every day with anxiety thinking, what's going to happen to us now? Oh my God, now the weather's against us. Not only are the government absolutely battering us, then the weather's now hitting us as well.
Kate Stewart, this can only mean one thing. Prices, once again, going through the roof.
And there's nothing we can do. We have on costs. We have to buy from the brewery. We have the VAT. We have then the VAT, what we take. It is an absolute nightmare. To be in the pub game now, Martin, is very, very difficult. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Everything just keeps hammering us from every different direction. And obviously, we have to pass that on to the customers, then price increases. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to sell beer at an inflated price. We want it as cheap as possible to get people through them doors. But we have no option. They're going to go up again in the new budget. You know, there's no help for us. What are we supposed to do, Martin, except the only option is to close the doors and say, enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. I absolutely cry my eyes out having to put the prices up because you think, oh, my God, people are just going to turn away and walk. But we can't swallow the costs all the time, Martin. It's impossible for us to do because we will go bankrupt. There has to be there's inflation getting hammered on us yet again, and we have to pass it on. I feel it when I take my children out for something to eat. You're like, wow, that has just cost a fortune. But what is the answer? The answer is the government needs to look at saving the hospitality sector and stop being so greedy in everything that they take away from us, or there won't be pubs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9:27 now. Today is World Arthritis Day, and despite what many people believe, it doesn't just affect the elderly.
10 million Brits suffer from the condition, including many young people. Our Scotland reporter Tony Maguire has been finding out more.
Arthritis affects around 10 million people living in Britain today. That's 1 in 6, managing pain, immobility and fatigue, impacting work, family and social lives. Contrary to what most people believe, arthritis is not just a product of old age. More than 10,000 young people across Britain have to manage these same symptoms every day. Britain's biggest dedicated charity, Versus Arthritis, supports young people like Martha and Sarah, making sure life doesn't pass them by.
When I got diagnosed, I kind of thought that was my life over, you know. I just was never going to get better, I was never going to get under control, but they have got it under control, and now I've got into medical school and I'm going to get to be a doctor like I always wanted to, and having my arthritis has actually driven me to want to do that even more.
I'd got quite a flare last year and I didn't think I was going to be able to get my hires, but I'd managed. A lot of it was through support from people at Versus Arthritis and people through the hospital.
Juvenile idiopathic arthritis, or JIA, is the diagnosis given to young people under the age of 16 living with rheumatoid arthritis, characterised by the immune system attacking the joints. Scottish Young People and Families manager Claire Connor says arthritis isn't the barrier to young people it once was.
So 20 years ago when you're saying, oh, I want to do teaching or I want to do that, and they go, but if you've got arthritis, how are you going to stand on your feet all day, and how are you going to take care of a classroom of 25 people? And you go, oh, right, okay. Whereas now it's like, on you go, but let us support you and let us get you the right support you need to make that happen. And it might not, but actually, why wouldn't it?
Living with a hidden condition has its own challenges, but the stigma of early life arthritis is gradually fading away, with the dedicated work of Versus Arthritis helping young people defy all expectations. Tony Maguire, GB News, Glasgow.
Let's talk to Olympic swimmer and ambassador for an arthritis charity, Sharon Davis. Good to see you this morning.
Yeah,
I know this is something that you have to cope with as well in your knee, I think. I mean, how do people deal with this on a day-to-day basis for those of us who don't suffer?
Yeah, do you know what I took from that intro, that this will affect young people? I'm just holding on to that. Actually, I'm not in that category, really. I'm in the category of osteoarthritis, which is what, actually happens as we age our joints. So those young people are coping with rheumatoid arthritis, and it's really good that we can understand what the difference is and what we can actually do. So for me, my injury was gladiators. I actually snapped my cruciate injury in my right knee, had that repaired in '95, and I've had 9 operations since to remove all sorts. There's just no cartilage left in there whatsoever now, and it's just bone on bone the whole time. But I don't want to go in and have knee replacement yet. I want to hold on to it for as long as I possibly can. And it is painful, and as an active person, I want to be as active as I can be. We know 80% of people really worry about what arthritis will do to their quality of life. 67% worry about sleep. They worry about it, affecting them in a big way, and a quarter already say that it stops them from being able to walk the dog, from sleeping at night, from playing golf, all the things that actually make us happy and make us who we are. So it really is a big problem, much bigger than people think, because it pretty much affects all of us.
Why do we always downplay it, Sharon? I mean, 10 million people, as you say, are affected in this, and it's like we dismiss it as not something that is to worry about, is to sort out, like we do with cancer and heart disease and things like that. But it really impacts your life, and it also impacts your mental health.
Yes, it does. You hit the nail on the head, Dawn. And that's the point. I mean, I had this injection on arthroside 2 years ago. I've been looking for new things to do constantly, which will help me. Also, maintaining the muscles around the joints is really important. Unfortunately, if you go and see the doctor will often just give you painkillers, which is another thing that people worry about taking constantly as well, and tell you to rest. If you're allowing the muscles around that joint to disappear, that's actually going to make it even worse. So I'm still going in the gym 4 times a week. I still get on my exercise bike with a knee that my specialist looks at and says, I don't know how you walk on it. So it is amazing what you can do, but it does take a little bit of effort. And there are these fantastic new products that are coming on the market all the time, which of course are, developing and are very, are fantastic.
Well, yeah. I mean, new products, it's getting hold of them, though, which isn't that easy often. You mentioned having an injection in your knee. What was that, like a steroid sort of thing? Does it make a difference?
No. Gosh, steroids now I avoid like the absolute plague. There is so many bad side effects to steroids, and you can only have a certain amount, and it degrades the cartilage in your knee in particular. So yes, in the past I've had them many years ago. I certainly would not have them now. This is a hydrogel which goes into the joint and actually stays in the joint, which has not historically been able to do. And it comes from the equine world. It comes from horses. And they've been using it successfully in horses for quite a long time. And of course, horses can't lie. If you put it in a horse and it makes them be able to run, so that works really well. And I don't profess to be anything like a horse, but it's definitely keeping me up on my feet and being able to do the things that I want to do. So it's not available, sadly, at the moment through the National Health. I'm trying very hard to be able to get it available for more people, because it would actually stop people from maybe even having to have knee replacements. And in old age, big operations like that also come with massive complications and risks as well.
Sorry, Sharon, did you say it wasn't available on the NHS at the moment?
No, it's not available on the NHS at the moment. So, because it's so new, but we're working on it. Because I think it would save the NHS an awful lot of money in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, as you said,
and we know they need to do that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and what you focused on, is the osteo, and the report we played was about rheumatoid, which often affects younger people. I mean, part of the problem is I have it with diabetes. People talk about it as one condition, which of course it really isn't. They're very, very different. Is this part of the problem with arthritis, that people don't really understand how different they are?
Yeah, rheumatoid arthritis, is a contagious disease. It often runs in families, and it's very debilitating for young people. And as your film, amazing film showed, we are getting better at being able to manage that as well, because I had friends 30 years ago, and the quality of the life of their children was absolutely horrendous with it. So that's fantastic news. We are making developments, aren't we, in medicine all the time. Osteoarthritis is something that will affect every single one of us. And if you're an athlete, for example, you're just not designed to use your body the amount that you do. I mean, I was training 6 hours a day for 20 years of my life, doing rotator cuff injuries with my shoulders, big swimmer's injury. So we get arthritis in our fingers, people that are using computers all the time. All of us will suffer from arthritis, at some point in our life. So understanding what we can do and how we combat it. And sadly, there's no fix. We can't fix people's arthritic knees. We can give them a new hip, or we can give them a new knee, but we can't magically fix the one that they've got. So it's about managing it as best you possibly can and maintaining the quality of life that makes you happy, because our mental and our physical well-being are so interlinked. I know if I can't get to the gym, mentally I don't feel so good about myself. So it's really underestimated, the dopamine that we produce by being out in the fresh air, walking our dog, playing golf, going to the gym, doing whatever it is that makes you happy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sharon. Sharon Davis there. I think hopefully an inspiration to people as well to,
of course,
to actually,
absolutely.
And I think the important message that Sharon would say as well is if you are in pain and you are suffering, don't give up on getting help. You have to keep pushing and you have to keep fighting. Don't take no for an answer.
I'll tell you what you have to do, though, which is problematic, especially the older you are, is do the research.
Yes.
It's get on these dreaded computers and do something, because sometimes you've got to go to the GP or whatever and say, I want you to look into this and tell them, because they don't know everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Keep fighting, and good luck if you are suffering out there. Thoughts with you. It's not one of the sexy problems, but it should be, because so many people are suffering. Yes. Don't suffer in silence.
No, absolutely.
We might be able to cheer you up a little bit, though, if you are suffering, because you could win £36,000 in our Great British Giveaway, couldn't you?
The clock's ticking, though.
It is,
Well, there's less than 2 weeks. It's a week on Friday that we're ending all of this. So if you want to be in with a chance of winning, here's how.
We love making our audience big cash winners, and you really could be next with £36,000 tax-free cash in your bank account.
Indeed. Good luck. OK, well, it is a weekend, so that means we're going to be talking sport very soon. Aidan McGee looks ahead to all the Saturday sport and the stuff that's coming up tomorrow as well.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We are now delighted to be joined by comedian and my beautiful friend, Francine Lewis, who's here to share with us her upcoming book, The Last Laugh, and an exciting competition in collaboration with none other than that mean Simon Cowell. Francine,
He's not so mean anymore.
Oh, is he not?
He's not. And do you know what?
Having a child, is it maybe?
Definitely. It's really weird because I really liked Simon. He was nasty. I just found that, I don't know, quite sexy. Now he's way too nice. Way too nice.
That's what they say, isn't it? You get all the nice guys say, I never get any luck with women, and they always say I'm too nice.
Do you know what? The truth is, I've always thought Simon was lovely. He's such a nice guy. Like, when I was doing Britain's Got Talent, I was very, very excited, you know, to meet Simon again because it was the second time I'd actually met him. And I always thought he was such a charming, lovely man.
Of course, you are more recently well known for BGT and your impressions and whatnot.
Do you know what? I do watch a lot of reality TV, a lot of that sort of stuff.
What do you watch?
Oh, I love Towie, whenever Love Island's on. Seriously, honeys, 100% definitely. You got to watch Essie. It's all about Towie, love it, seriously. So I'm always doing, you know, whatever the new reality shows are.
The favourite is Katie Price, and we've got a video, I think we've got a selfie video of us doing...
Have we?
Yeah, we have, from
I'm showing
years ago.
Tatiana to Katie Price, which she does amazingly. Come on, Tatiana, let's...
No, I don't.
Tatiana!
Katie, there's a mixture between Katie Price and Tatiana.
What do you think? I love when people take me off. It shows what a big star I am.
It's the lick of the lip.
The People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Conservative MPs have finally chosen their top two for the leadership. And now, it's over to the members. Join me, Christopher Hope, on Thursday as Kevin Badenoch and Robert Jenrick are quizzed by Conservative Party members and myself at our GB News leadership event.
And afterwards, join me, Patrick Christie, for the live studio audience and a star panel as we discuss what it means for the Conservative Party and what it means for you. Decision Time, the race to lead, from 7 p.m. this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, time for the sport with Aidan. Should we talk about bugging dressing rooms?
Yeah, I've never heard of this being done before, actually. I mean, The Sun have put it on their front page today, Squeaky Bug Time, they've called it. And it relates to an incident that happened last Sunday when Manchester United travelled to Birmingham to face Aston Villa at Villa Park. Now, it appears that somebody, we don't know if it's an employee of Aston Villa or not, but somebody's gained access to the stadium or the dressing room area 2 days before the game. They put a device, a recording device, via a phone underneath one of the benches. So it's one of these phones that's been issued in China where if you ring from an external phone, another phone, it triggers a microphone in the phone that you've planted and it enables the device to record the conversation in the dressing room. Now, bear in mind that Erik ten Hag's future was very much, well, it still is on the line, but I mean, last Sunday, if they'd lost that game, especially if they lost it convincingly, I think he would have been out of a job by Monday or Tuesday. So there was a lot riding on it. The stakes were very, very high. As it was, they drew 0-0. The contents of the conversation, because obviously the footage or the tape has been passed on to the Sun, they've decided not to publish the contents of what was said.
Presumably because it's not juicy enough.
No, it's not. I mean, even if you find out some tactical information, all that stuff's laid out before the match. I would have thought it's all about motivation. Well, at 2:45, isn't it, or 15 minutes before the kickoff? But nonetheless, Aston Villa have promised an investigation. And I'm not sure how long, given that it didn't really affect them, I'm not sure how long.
Are they implying it's a bit of a prank rather than anyone up to actually deliberately genuinely spying on them?
Yeah, because I don't know why a Manchester United fan, unless they've really got it in for Erik ten Hag, who actually tends to be quite popular, even despite the relative level of underachievement. But I think, there's been suggestions that it's a prankster walking around somewhere. I mean, we've seen some pranks carried out in TV studios in the last few years, haven't we? There was a famous one on Match Today, wasn't there?
Yes, I remember that one.
Which we won't go into detail.
It was very rude, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
Yeah, and that was using a mobile phone as well,
It was
wasn't
indeed, yeah. But I don't know if that guy Jarvis has been linked with lots of... I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's no evidence he's been at Villa Park in the last few days. But to get there 2 days before, that suggests to me that that person must have had some business there.
But this hasn't happened before, to my knowledge,
I don't think
bugging a dressing room.
No, I don't think so. And also, if you're getting tactical information, but the newspaper or the media organisation is not seeing or not hearing what it is until a few days down the line, I'm not convinced it's that newsworthy anyway. You know, I mean, they're building a wall at Old Trafford. They're building a wall at the training ground, Man United, to stop people looking in and spy on the tactics, which is it's long overdue, that, because I used to get a lot of information out of there back in the 2000s when I worked on the tabloids. Yeah, I know, that's what they're doing these days, isn't it?
Yeah. All right.
Flying trains.
So from Man United to England...
Yes.
Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah, well, he's actually been linked with Man United as well.
Oh,
so he's come available since the summer because he left Bayern Munich. My question would be, listen, he's a stellar candidate. He really is. I mean, he wins trophies wherever he goes. He won the Champions League for Chelsea, having only been there for a few months back in 2021. My question is whether they can afford him. I mean, the FA, they reckon this. I mean, it'll be loaded with bonuses. Obviously, the bonuses for winning a major tournament for England would be absolutely colossal, I would have thought, and rightly so. But the basic would be around about £5.5–6 million. I mean, yeah, it sounds a lot compared,
it does sound a lot,
especially compared to Lee Carsey's a paltry 300 grand he gets for managing under 21s. But he's obviously just the interim coach. But compared to what some of these managers earn elsewhere around the world, I mean, you know, Roberto Mancini, who I'd say has passed his peak now. He's not winning titles as he did at Manchester City or even the Euros with Italy as he did in 2021. £21.5 million he's earning per year in Saudi Arabia. We don't even know if that includes any bonuses. I mean, it's not even a high level of football. We've got Mikel Arteta, who he's only delivered one FA Cup in 4 years at Arsenal, earning £15 million a year. So the FA are facing the same problem that a lot of Premier League clubs are facing. They're going up against nation states who've got sovereign wealth funds. They can literally throw money at anything, and so it probably limits your capacity to hire the candidate you really want. Having said that, if Tuchel is attracted by the prestige of the England job and the challenge of lifting this very gifted group of players over the line in a way that Gareth Southgate couldn't quite manage, then the rewards for
getting
that
a very
would be enormous.
gifted group of players playing together as a team would be a start.
Well, it would be, wouldn't it? We're in the wrong job, though, with that sort of money. Lovely. Aidan, thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we're going to talk about a new film about Ernest Shackleton's journey, and we're talking to his granddaughter.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, Italian wine in Britain is worth a whopping £891 million and can be described as a Prosecco phenomenon, apparently. So joining us now to tell us more about why these Italian bubbles are so popular is Ed Smith, the founder of The Emissary, a British-based Prosecco brand. Good morning, Ed.
Morning, guys.
Thank you for coming in, and you've done just as we asked. You've come laden with booze and bottles and glasses.
Exactly.
So the definition of Prosecco, Tatiana, you were saying earlier, is sparkling wine that's been made in certain areas of Italy. Which areas?
Exactly. So the Prosecco region is northeast Italy. It's about sort of an hour north of Venice, foothills of Dolomite Mountains. Very, very beautiful part of Italy. Veneto, exactly. Well done.
Show off.
I'm half Italian, so...
well, there we go. OK, you should be teaching me.
No, that's it.
So like Champagne, that has to come from the Champagne region in France. Prosecco has to come from the Prosecco region in Italy. And it's different to Champagne and other sparkling wines, like English sparkling wine, in that geography, like we just mentioned, has to come from that region in Italy. The grapes that are used are different. So Prosecco has to be at least 85% Glera, which is the native grapes of the region. And it's most importantly the method. So Champagne and English sparkling wines use the traditional method, where second fermentation, which produces the bubbles, happens in the bottle, whereas Prosecco uses what's called the Charmat method. So the second fermentation happens in still vats. It's a much quicker process, and that's why Prosecco is a bit more affordable.
So the Emissary is a British-based Prosecco brand.
Yeah.
So is it made in the UK?
No, made in Italy.
Yeah, that's why you can call it Prosecco.
Exactly.
You can't call it Prosecco unless it's made in those two regions.
Great. So can we get stuck into some of these? That's the most important
Absolutely.
thing of this morning.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At 9:49, it is more than a century since Sir Ernest Shackleton's ship Endurance sank in Antarctica and saw its crew embark on one of the most historic survival quests.
But now, new images compiled by high-tech 3D scans have been released. They're part of a new National Geographic documentary about the expedition and the quest to find the ship, which is premiering tonight at the London Film Festival.
Well, we're delighted to say that the granddaughter of Sir Ernest Shackleton, Alexandra, is here. Good to see you this morning.
Good to be here.
It's remarkable that, a century on, this is still one of the most fascinating stories of which new information is coming to light all the time.
Well, I'm sometimes asked why for so long. One reason, the way he led his men. He was unusual for his time. For instance, when they were living in tents on the ice with the Weddell Sea surging beneath, he personally, the leader, decided who would be in what tent. At that era, you usually put the officers together and the men together. He didn't. He, as it were, sprinkled them because he knew them. He knew them, which is unusual. And though you think that should be a given, in some ways it was exceptional because there was a huge educational gap between the men and the officers. Some of the men were superstitious. One sailor refused to eat penguin to begin with because he said everyone knows it contains the souls of dead sailors.
Oh. So what's it like seeing the ship brought to life now? Some of the detail, the crew's dining plates can be seen resting on dock. A single knee-length boot, which may have belonged to Shackleton's second in command. What's
Frank
it like?
Wilde.
Yes, yeah. What's it like for you seeing these images?
Well, of course, I've only seen pictures of them, but yes. I'm going to the film premiere tonight. It's amazing. So, first of all, the ship was found, which is good enough, and now these extraordinary images.
But it's the fact that the ship is as intact as she is.
Yeah. That is because there are no trees in the Antarctica, so a little wood-eating creepy is not there anymore, so it couldn't eat the ship.
Right, God, it's amazing.
What's it mean to you to have him in your family, to have someone who did so much, and he died at 47, wasn't he?
He did. And my father was 10 years old. He hardly knew him. In those days, explorers were away for years at a time, and of course there were no communications whatsoever when you were down south. Well, he's always been at the back of my life, but the wonderful photographs of Frank Hurley, the expedition leader, expedition photographer, I don't even see them. I learned the story through them.
It's remarkable because it's, as I say, it's such a long. What strikes me is it is such a long time ago, and yet the name is something we all know, and to carry that name with you.
Well, I'm very lucky. I've been to the Antarctic 4 times and to South Georgia. And all the cliches are true. It's the most wonderful, beautiful place in the world. You should both go.
But is it terrifying in its beauty?
No, not really, because you're very well taken care of. They're a street royal. It's not terrifying.
Oh, God, I'd be terrified.
Oh, no,
I think I would a little bit. Can I just say, because one of the remarkable things, you talked about him as a leader.
Yes.
He was someone, I mean, he was adored by his men,
Yes.
wasn't he? And
He was.
trusted implicitly.
And he saw, when they were living for months on the ice, he inculcated in his men the belief that not only would they expect to be loyal to him, but he would be loyal to them. And he expected loyalty to them and the expedition as a whole. And just not self-conscious. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I was going to say,
came out of the sort of person he was.
Yeah.
And that was so unusual of the time, as you say. You know, the hierarchy between the classes. If you were a commanding officer or you were just a sailor, you didn't interact.
Absolutely.
And yet he actually cared
He was
about his
Irish
men.
and Merchant Navy, not Royal Navy. That probably.
Do you say, is that something, I don't know, say, your father was only 10 when he
Yes,
died?
yes.
But, I mean, is that something that has gone through the family? The more you've learned about who he was as a leader, is it something you try to hold up yourselves as a way of life?
Well, my father went on a couple of expeditions, and so did my son. I made my brother promise we were little. I was bigger than Charles at that stage, and he agreed, and he did. So we've had 3 generations.
Wow. Have you never fancied it yourself?
No, I'm not very good at physical. And also, there aren't many opportunities when you live in Hammersmith.
Well, I don't know. There are some people that would say Hammersmith is actually quite an adventurous place to go at some time.
How does it feel now that we're going to see this film tonight, and it will, of course, make its way onto the smaller screens as the years go by? Is it a wonderful thing to have this moment of magic and celebration, actually, of this incredible voyage, an incredible man?
It is, and also it makes me feel less remote from my grandfather. It sounds a cliche, but the first time I went to the Antarctic and I was seeing places he would have seen, he felt not so remote. He was an interesting mixture. He wrote poetry, the only Antarctic explorer who wrote poetry, but he's also incredibly practical. He could do any job on an expedition, however menial, and expected his mentor.
Yeah.
It'd been reasonable to think one quality modified the other. To me, thinking about it made a stronger whole.
I think it's fascinating. It's a delight to talk to you.
Alexandra, thank you
very
so much indeed. Wow.
That's it from us. Let's just leave you with a look at the weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. It's a chilly start this weekend and there is some showery rain for many of us, but brighter skies will emerge later and tomorrow's looking mostly fine. Now, the wettest and breeziest place through the day will be across Scotland and Northern Ireland, although the more persistent rain will tend to sink south into Northern England and North Wales later, whilst another area of showers moves through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. In between, some sunny spells, but it's going to feel cold, particularly where we've got the showers and the breeze in the north. Some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains as we end the day, but otherwise showers do tend to become fewer and there'll be more lengthy clear spells breaking out by the time the sun starts going down. So some gaps in between the showers, but certainly today's the most unsettled day. Northern Ireland drying up by the end of the day. Scotland still some rain around and some showers. Also that cold wind continuing to blow from the north, although some clear spells by this stage in the far northwest. Overnight, we'll see the showers tending to drift south and east across the country, lengthy clear skies emerging, and by the end of the night, most places away from the far north and far east will be dry with lighter winds as well. As a result, it's going to be a chilly night with temperatures by dawn down into the low single figures in many, or even a little below -2 to -4 Celsius possible for some sheltered parts of Scotland. Milder in the far southwest, but turning increasingly cloudy here as the next Atlantic system starts to approach. But that's going to hold off for much of the day. I think for most it's a dry and bright day. The thickest cloud will be in the west, a few spots of rain in western Scotland by the afternoon. Brightest skies in the east, although it will feel cold for the time of year.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house.
we love. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There's a huge financial